atmosphere in Schembechler Hall. A ton of enthusiasm and excitement, and my energy level was already sky high. But then got a visit from the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, very close friend, and that just brought the enthusiasm to a new level.
Was Rick's visit planned? Did he just show up out of the blue?
He let me know that he was coming in this weekend, and stop by. Could he stop by? Of course. There's few people I would rather see or be around than my good friend. It goes back to 1989. I was playing with the Bears, and Brad Muster was a huge fan of the Nature Boy and wrestling, and said, "Hey, you want to go to? There's a show at I can't remember which arena it was, but yeah, heck yeah, let's go." So we went, and first time I've ever been, backstage for anything, fight, concert, wrestling, and just his infectious personality, just instant friends. But the cool part was they said, grab a towel. You guys, you and Brad are on the hype squad, and just remember, going out and cheering for Rick. So been to many of his shows and competitions, and he's one of a kind, the best.
In the back, John.
Jim, you got Ohio State coming up, and I want to take a step back to your time at Stanford. There's a big game, quote unquote, coming up for them too. In about 2 weeks. What are your memories from that game, and how does it compare necessarily to your experience with Ohio State over the course of legacies, traditions, and the like?
What game are you referring to? Which
Stanford Cal game? I was just wondering.
Oh,
your
yeah.
experience with that.
Oh, the big game. Tremendous. What I think of rivalries, trophy games, the tradition. They're just feel very blessed and lucky to be involved with them. And this is a big game, and every one is a big game. Every game you play, it's a huge game, and how we're approaching this one, it's really the same as we approach all the games leading up to it. You'd be doing a disservice, a discredit for any game if you didn't approach it, with everything that you had, and our guys are, there's a bounce in the step. There's you don't even have to talk about it much. I mean, everybody's aware, and just can't wait to play. Just looking for a time to play, a place to play, a team to play against.
On the left, Andrew.
If you just look at the scores of your games, you guys have not really been seriously tested this season. I guess, do you feel you have been, and then how so?
Yeah, they've we've been tested. I jotted down a few things. Things I was going to just share with the team. It's just all the guys. It's been incredible. It's not just 9-0, but the way they play for each other, the way they produce. It's been a tremendous run, really. 21 straight wins at home, 21 straight Big Ten wins, 20 straight regular season wins. This past game, defense, one series over 6 plays. That was the last drive. And every other series was 1, 3, 4, 6 plays. 7 3-and-outs. 3, 1 first down and out. Both of those, 2 of those were field goals. And there's been 38 out of 98 drives, somewhere in that area. A third of the drives have been 3-and-outs. Forced 10 punts on 14 possessions. No team has taken a snap inside of our 10-yard line this season. And love the fact that that's 314 straight games, over 100,000 people at the game. And offense, career game for Roman Wilson, 9 catches, 143 yards. Got 10 touchdowns on the season. JJ, second highest passing yards of his career, 335. 5 straight Big Ten games with 40 points. That ties a Big Ten record. We have a school record, 12 straight games, 30-plus points. Blake Corum tied second all-time, now in rushing touchdowns, 47 rushing TDs. Love the fact we have 2 receivers, 1 tight end, 1 running back with 24 or more completions on the season. JJ just passed Tom Brady in career passing yards. And what a QB Tom Brady turned out to be. Passer rating, JJ is 11 points higher than any other quarterback in Michigan history. His yards per play of total offense is 9.7. That's 2 yards more than any player in Michigan history. JJ just passed me for completions for a career, and I think I'm next up on the yards. I think 87 more, and he passes me up in yardage. Just tremendous. Dave brought the stat. 3rd and long going into the Purdue game was 19 of 20 for 335 yards. And he's just been outstanding on the money down, on the 3rd down. Blake leads the country in rushing TDs with 16, and he also leads in touchdowns scored. Donovan Edwards, 200 yards from being the all-time leader in U of M for receiving yards for a running back. And then what I love, I think it just speaks so good to the discipline of our team. 24 penalties on the season. I don't know how many yards that. It's around 200, right? For 200 penalty yards, something like that. Also leading the country. And this past game, we had the 1 penalty. Technically, that would have been the 2nd game without a penalty we've had this year, and I've been told it's been 30 years since Michigan had didn't have a penalty in a game. 30 years that Michigan did not have a penalty in a game prior to this season. So really good. Also special teams wise, Tommy Doman had a great game. Game ball for him. 4 punts inside the 12-yard line. The 12, the 10, the 5, and the 3. Kickoff unit had a chance to cover a kick. And 12-yard line on the opening kickoff really set the tone of the game. Had the 32-yard punt return. Really happy JT made both his field goals, 30 and 31. Net punt was 43.2. And it was, after those 4 punts, 7.5-yard line was their average starting field position. So, tremendous, specifically to the game. Will Johnson, he's guardian of victory once again. Just playing lights out from beginning to the end of that game. 4 tackles, 3 PBUs, and interception. Mason Graham, 31 plays, 3 tackles, but dominant block destruction. Mike B had a monster game. Mike Barrett, 6 tackles, 5 QB pressures. Heck of a game. Braden McGregor, 4 tackles, had the big 3rd down TFL, and he had the QB pressure in the red zone. Great job by him. Rod Moore really hitting his stride. 2 PBUs. Big play in the red zone, in the quarter of the end zone. And Makari Page. Makari Page had his best game of the season. So physical, 4 tackles, playing his best ball. Josh Wallace had a great game, great dominant game that he had in the first half. Great coverage, had a TFL, 2 tackles, and a PBU, and Junior Colson, just a stud, and there's nothing more you can say about him. Just football player in every respectful way. JJ, talked about him, another elite performance by him. Blake, just great and consistently great at scoring the ball. I mean, give him the ball, and he puts it in the paint. Great at scoring the ball. Dono, he's running hard. Donovan Edwards running hard. Made the huge play in the game, and pass pro was excellent as well. And talked about Roman, career game. He makes the magic happen. It's been fun to watch him having the year that he's having and scoring the ball. Zach Zinter, also, he's playing the best of any offensive lineman in the country, in our opinion. And Timo, too, won Tyler Mosh, want to talk about him. He just gets open. He finds the space. He makes the play, makes the magic happen on third down. Been fantastic. And can't leave out Samaj Morgan. We used to give a game ball to the freshman of the week, offense, defense, special teams, but we've taken him out of that category. It's not really fair. Just game ball. Samaj Morgan's 2 huge plays in the game, and as I said, just balls in his hands. It's got a chance to go the distance. So pretty phenomenal in all respects. This past game and the season so far up to this point. And having said all that, now you're doing it again. You're doing it. You have to do it another time and put the puzzle together and get ready to play a team that hasn't had any points scored on them in the third quarter as well. And just be good. Just be good. It'll be about us. It'll be how we play, and we're gonna have to play good to win the game.
On the left there, Ryan.
Jim, you have a big milestone birthday next month. How much have you thought about how long you want to coach for? Is there any specific accomplishments or achievements you would like to accomplish before it's all said and done?
Really, the only way I've really thought about that is might have been 5 or 6 years ago. We were at my brother John's place down in Bald Head Island, and we're sitting there talking to each other. We're talking about how long do you coach? What do you want? What do you accomplish? The same questions you're asking, and we're talking to each other about it. We really couldn't come up with anything definitive. So we asked the same question to our dad. Dad, how long do you coach? When do you know to stop coaching? And he said, I'll tell you, boys, here's what you do. You coach as long as you possibly can. You coach until you get to the point where you don't feel like you can coach another day. You can't make another script. You can't go out to the practice field. And that's when when you get to that point, coach for 2 more years. So that's the advice I heed.
Does that seem like good advice?
Yeah, it seems like great advice. And I've shared that advice. I don't keep that to myself. Just different coaches that that retire, or I always tell them congratulations, and then I just gotta give you this perspective from Jack Harbaugh.
How would you describe your passion for coaching now to maybe 5 years ago?
It's always been high. I love the competition, and or at least I thought it was high. I can tell you this. I mean, just these players, how they've been raised, their families. There was definitely there was a boost, an invigoration just being around these guys. And I mean, all the names, JJ and Dono and Blake and Aiden Hutchinson, and just so many that. And I've told them the same thing. I mean, it's given me a huge boost.
On the left, Chris.
Earlier this year, when you guys were struggling to run in some games, you said it was one guy here, one guy there. One time it was 4 or 5. What did you see on Saturday night, and what can you do to fix it at this point in the year?
What are you talking about? Fix what specifically?
The run game, and maybe get less plays that don't work, 3 yards or less.
Yeah. Well, there's been these conversations, and there's football conversations about this all the time. You recall last year there was a real emphasis on could we throw the ball? Could we throw the ball downfield? And it was weekly that we addressed that in the press conference here. And then it got to the point where even last year where teams were saying we're going to stop the run and we're going to make J.J. McCarthy beat us. And we've seen how that has worked out. So there's an ability to you could drop 8 or 9 and have a really good chance of shutting down or eliminating a passing game. You could put 8, 9 in the box and have a really good chance. Safety's playing at linebacker depth, and you have a pretty good chance of shutting down the running game. But when you can do both and you can do both effectively, that's where you want to be as an offense. And then it's the old sports adage, also one of my dad's favorites, and my favorite. You live by the sword, you die by the sword. So that's what I would say to that.
On the left, Michael.
Jim, as you prepare for Penn State, what have you seen about the way Drew Aller runs that offense and the way he's played this season?
Yeah, it's been good. You can see all the improvement. Just prototypical guy. Tall, smart, got great stature in the pocket, very athletic, strong. He's hard to get down on the ground. Courage, stands in there and throws it. He's an excellent quarterback.
On the left there, Tom.
With all the stuff off the field, I think you said that it was a motivator. What have you seen from the team? Are they angry? The players themselves, are they uniting around this, or what specifically have you seen from them?
Not really. What I've seen of our players, I think, what they do, no matter what happens, what it is, what emotion they're feeling. List one of the adjectives. I mean, they just work. They want to find some work, do some work. Something could be in their personal life. Something could be, in the game of football or school. Some kind of stressor or whatever, and you just go to work, find some work, create some work for you to do. It clears the mind, it cleanses the soul, and a lot of times you get the clarity you need. Not every time, but a lot of the time you get the clarity you need, and bang, that's where we go from here. And then you have the benefit. You have the benefit of the work that you did, and it's always been my personal philosophy, and I see our players doing the same thing.
Separately with JJ, it seems like he holds a special place with you. Why do you think that is? With JJ,
He's supposed to have a special place with me?
Yeah.
He's like a beloved son. It's everything about him. The way he approaches everything. The way he treats young kids, the way he treats adults. I mean, the respect that he has. I mean, he'll pop up off his chair and go shake somebody's hand. Gratitude for everything. The smile with the kids. JJ, my son Jack feels like JJ's his best friend. And that's a beautiful thing that JJ first. That's his Jack's role model, and also JJ makes him feel that way. And I've seen that with dozens of kids. It's just you just want to hug him. Hey, I just need one. That's the kind of guy that he is. And then, as a football player, in my mind, he's this Tom Brady in his preparation. His willingness to be coached, his wanting to do anything and everything that he can for his own personal growth and also for the team. And then he's got this side of him that I've only seen in one other quarterback, Jim McMahon, which is the love of playing and the fun, that a guy has playing the game of football. So, yeah, I've never seen that personality, ultra competitive but empathetic, come together in a football quarterback and the way it does, which is he's like a blend of Tom Brady and Jim McMahon from what I've seen. Hard not to love that.
On the right, Bob.
Jim, you talked about a priceless gift that your players are getting with all this stuff. It motivates them. But a lot of it is directed at you. So is it a priceless gift for you, too? Do you feel the spotlight on you, and does that motivate you?
I mean, nobody's wants criticism or, and that's why I work so hard to do everything right, both on and off the field, because it's been that way for a long time, since I was 22 years old. But if the criticism's directed at me and not on my adolescent kids at home or the players on the football team, then I'm okay with it.
Larry?
Jim, what have walk-ons meant to this team this season specifically, and also to your program since you've been here?
It's hard to put a value on that. I mean, priceless, invaluable to the team. I mean, start saying the names and the Joe Taylors, the Jake Thaws. I mean, Jake took a hit in that game that would have killed a lesser man. Joe Taylor, I mean, continues to play through some of the football pains that a lot of guys have, without flinching. And Danny Hughes, he's gonna be working through something, and he said, "I don't care about my knee. I just want to play." Hey, Danny, we got to stop you right there. It's going to be out for a few weeks, maybe more, but we're going to have a next man go up. But that kind of when I talk about stalwarts, and if you really were to look up that definition, that fits so many of our guys, and yeah, you could probably make the argument that the guys that are have walked on, paying their own way. There's even a more special place in the heart. There could make that argument. Sure felt that way about my players at USD. Playing for the love of the game and the love of the team and the loyalty of and the contributions that they make to the team invaluable.
Reiner?
Jim, there was a report in The Athletic that they surveyed 50 coaches, and 94% of them thought that you crossed the line with the sign stealing, sign scouting allegations. And then obviously there's also reports of the Big Ten coaches lobbying, Tony Petitti for some kind of punishment. How does that make you feel, and do you care about respect within the coaching industry?
Yeah. Again, I mean, I appreciate your question on that. Respect it, and know that you have to ask that. I've stated my position clearly, and just not in a position to discuss it now.
On the left there, Aaron?
Just going back to JJ, you mentioned him in third and long situations. What makes a quarterback so good? Or what are some of the traits of a good quarterback in third and long?
Well, I don't know, really have that list in front of me, but it's the one that you can go and look at and say, that is a real difference maker in evaluating quarterbacks. I mean, that's the money down. They're really good at it, and they can move their team, or they're not as good at it. That was something when I was, and more so when I was a pro coach, and you're evaluating quarterbacks to draft. I mean, that was huge. That was right up there with, points per possession, and in a lot of ways even more important. Football's such a team game, but boy, if there's a time when it's like, closer to baseball, and you're counting on that, that quarterback to to make the play, the throw, under pressure, is he, blitz percentage. I mean, you're going to break all that down. I mean, how good is he in those pressure situations?
All right, last question here from John.
Jim, you touched on this, I think, earlier last month, but Jimmy Rolder with his redshirt season, where have you seen his growth thus far and, coming into the game against Michigan State? What's the plan for his future?
Yeah, so I mentioned there's some guys working through some things now, but there were some guys working through some things at the beginning of the season, and tip of the cap to them for now they're back in position to play. Jimmy's one of those. He's fully healthy, chomping at the bit, and we're at the point where he can go and still redshirt. To where he can play in 4 games plus the postseason and still have that redshirt year. So great job to Jimmy, attacking the rehab like so many guys have done. You've seen, Rod Moore back hitting his stride, Will Johnson early in the season working through something, Makari the same. But yeah, Jimmy's one of those guys that has attacked it. He's rehabbed. He's had a couple of really good weeks of practice. He's ready to roll.
Like always, appreciate you guys coming out and covering Penn State football. Really appreciate it. Game captains this week, we'll have Sean Lee, which is awesome having him back. We haven't had him back in a while, so we're excited about that. Obviously, everybody knows his background. Penn State linebacker from 2005, 2009, then 11 years. In the NFL with the Dallas Cowboys, 2-time All-Pro. So it's great having him back. And then Brad Spider-Caldwell as well. Talk about kind of quick summary of the last game. We won the turnover battle. We won the explosive play battle. We won the third down battle. We won the sack battle. We won the drive start battle. We did not win the penalty battle. Players of the game on offense, Drew Aller and Katron Allen. On defense, Adisa Isaac and Abdul Carter. On special teams, Alex Felkins. And then D-Squad players of the week, Matt Dedish and Ethan Black. And on defense, Jake Wilson and George Hlavik. Jake has been Mr. Consistent. He's been phenomenal for us, and having a big role in getting us ready each week to be able to be successful. And then on special teams, Kavion Keys has won it multiple times now. Some positives from the game, dominant win, 1-0. Turnover margin, and respecting the football. We're plus 16 in turnover margin, which is number 1 in the country. The next best is plus 12 in the country. Starting fast was huge in this game. That first 4th down stop, not only was that a huge play in the game from a momentum standpoint, the first big momentum play of the game, but then also the offense was able to turn that into a first drive touchdown. We won the middle 8, and then our ability to make them one-dimensional on offense, negative 49 yards rushing. They actually just stopped calling runs. We were 3 for 3 on field goals and 6 for 6 on PATs, so that was great. The kickoff return, I think, was a big play in the game, not only from a field position standpoint, but they had just scored, gotten a little bit of momentum, and to be able to respond right away with that play was huge. Third quarter dominance continues. We've scored 97 points in the third quarter and given up 0. And then just Dom DeLuca, I think is just a great example. I've talked about him a bunch, but I think he's just a great example. Has come to Penn State, and every opportunity he's been given, he's maximized them. Doesn't say a whole lot, but you give him a responsibility, he puts his head down, and he gets to work. And he's really been able to take every opportunity that he's been given and maximize them. And when you do that, more opportunities come. I think he's been a great example for our team with that. So big fan of his. Getting into Michigan and Coach Harbaugh, obviously one of the most highly ranked and regarded teams in the country. You talk about them on each side of the ball. Sharon Moore, their offensive coordinator, has done a really good job. This is his second year in this position, but first year without sharing the responsibilities. You look at scoring offense, they're number one in the Big Ten and fifth in the country. Passing attempts, yards per attempt, they're first in the Big Ten and sixth in the country. Turnover margin, they're second in the Big Ten and sixth in the country. And then third down, they're first in the Big Ten and second in the country. So really good numbers. The quarterback has been a differentiator for them, completing almost 76% of his balls. Also has the ability to make plays with his feet, either running for first downs, touchdowns, or extending plays. Obviously, we all know about Blake Corum. Roman Wilson's having a huge year when it comes to explosive plays. Their tight end, Colton Loveland, we also have a bunch of respect for. And then their offensive line has won the Joe Moore Award for the best offensive line in college football the last 2 years. So a lot of respect for that unit. Jesse Minner, the defensive coordinator, has done a really good job. You look at their numbers again, total defense, they're first in the Big Ten and first in the country. Rushing defense, they're third in the Big Ten and 10th in the country. Passing defense, they're first in the Big Ten and first in the country. Third down defense, they are second in the Big Ten and 13th in the country. And then scoring defense, they're first in the Big Ten and first in the country. So, really good numbers. We're impressed with their nickel. Their nickel number 0, Mr. Sainristil. Their linebacker, number 23, Barrett. Their linebacker, number 25, Junior Colson. Their defensive end, number 17, Braden McGregor. Their defensive tackle, number 55, Mason Graham. Their defensive end, number 32, Jalen Harrell. And then their cornerback, number 2, Will Johnson, guys that we have a lot of respect for. And then on special teams, their kickoff coverage unit ranks first in the Big Ten and fourth in the country. Their punt return unit ranks second in the Big Ten and ninth in the country. We got respect for their punter and their kickoff specialist, number 19, Tommy Doman. And then their punt returner, number 8, Tyler Morris. Tyler ranks fourth in the Big Ten. Excuse me, and their kickoff and punter ranks third in the Big Ten. So it'll be a challenge. I know our guys are looking forward to it, and I appreciate you guys working with us and adjusting the schedule to do this on Mondays. So open up to questions.
Rich Garcella and then Mike Gross, you're on deck.
Good afternoon, James. How are you today?
Hey, Rich. Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. What has changed with your run defense since the Michigan game last year? Why have you been so effective? And can you give me more reasons? You mentioned Corum, but why is their running game so successful?
So first of all, I think we've been much more disciplined and consistent in gap responsibility. There's been times where we've tried to make plays and get out of our gap, and against gaps and against good teams, the ball will find the open gap. And I think we're a little bit bigger. I think that the size has helped us as well. We're a little bit bigger across the front, specifically the D-line. Not to the point where it's affected our ability to move, because I think that's a big part of what we do as well, is our movements and our games. And then, with them offensively, I just think they do a really good job of getting a hat on a hat. So a really good job of IDing the front, being able to get their being able to get their 6 blockers on our 6 most dangerous defenders. And I think Corum's got the ability to have tremendous vision and balance, and behind the line, because they're able to get a hat on a hat. He's patient, and then once he does decide to go, he's got the ability to burst through the hole. And even though he's an undersized guy, he's a powerful guy, and he's always falling forward. And then, obviously they got a change of pace back as well, who's made some huge plays in the passing game and is explosive in Donovan. So they got two really good backs. They got experienced offensive line. They've done a good job being aggressive each year in the transfer portal on the offensive line. So they've been able to bring in experienced guys. I think the two guys they brought in, one was a captain at Stanford and one was a captain at Arizona State. So they got veteran guys in that room, whether it's their own guys or guys that they've gone out and gotten.
Let's go to Mike Gross and then Johnny McGonigal.
Good afternoon, James. How are you?
Hey, Mike. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. The stuff that's been swirling around Michigan this year has brought the whole idea of signal stealing and signal protecting sort of into our consciousness and into the public consciousness. But obviously it's something that you're always aware of. So the question is, have you had to spend more time on that and deal with that more this year than other years, and this week more than other weeks because you're playing Michigan?
Yeah, I know these questions are going to come this week. I'm going to focus on the things that we can control. We always have to have a plan, and I think I've already kind of covered this and talked about this in terms of what we do and how we communicate to our players and how we communicate to our team during games. But I'm going to leave it at that because less is more.
Let's go to Johnny McGonigal and then Mark Wogenrich.
Hey, James. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, good. You mentioned J.J. McCarthy being a differentiator. From what you've seen on film so far this season, how is he a different player and quarterback, if at all, from the guy that you guys faced last year in Ann Arbor?
Yeah, I think he's just a more experienced player. He's always been able to make plays with his feet, but he's just improved, kind of well-rounded. He's throwing for a higher completion percentage. He's doing a great job of protecting the football. He can extend the play and make big-time throws. I think the biggest thing with them is they really have not been challenged. They've had really good game control on offense and defense. They're usually ahead on the scoreboard for the most part, and they're usually ahead of the sticks on offense and defense. And when you're able to do that, then you're putting your quarterback or your guys in a very advantageous position as well. So that game control will be an important part of this game, and hopefully here at home, just like we had to go on the road and play in some tough environments. Hopefully this is even more of a challenging environment here. I just got off doing a quick call, and somebody asked me about the 12 o'clock game compared to the 7 o'clock game, and I actually think sometimes the 7 o'clock games, the whiteouts and things like that, they can be a little sleepy. It's late at night, guys are tired. The 12 o'clock game, I think, is going to be a much better environment because between the coffee, Dunkin' Donuts coffee, and then between the sugar from the donuts, our fans will be ready to go. We'll be in that stadium early because we're a morning group anyway. So it's going to be ideal, but I hope that the environment will also be something that's going to be difficult and cause some challenges, because when you can get penalties and get people behind the sticks, they have not had to play that way a whole lot this year. So that'll be a big part in the game.
Let's go to Mark Wogenrich and then Frank Bodani. You're on deck.
Hi, James. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good, thanks. What impact did Chop have off the field at Maryland, and could he return Saturday?
Well, first of all, I think it's very telling, right? When we talk about our depth, that we have two of our better defensive ends out of that game in Chop and Amin, and then specifically Chop, maybe our most explosive defensive player, having him out of that game and still be able to play the way we played. So the opportunity and the possibility to have both of those guys back this week will be significant. I thought being able to travel him was big, not only from a rehab standpoint to get him with our trainers and doctors, but also from a morale standpoint. That was something we talked about in the locker room, of not just finding a way to get a win and playing well, but also playing for Chop with his inability to play last week. So we're hopeful to have both of those guys back.
Let's go to Frank Bodani and then Corey Geiger.
Hi, James. Good afternoon to you.
Hey, Frank.
How are you?
Good. I was so good.
Hey, good.
I was waiting to see your face. There you are.
I
I lost you. You're breaking up.
I know you embrace your running back. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's better now. Now you're just pausing because I'm talking at the same time as you are because it's a delay.
This is tough today, but I hope you can get me here.
You're not in your normal place.
I know you embrace your running back company.
You're not in your normal room and place.
I'm not. I'm in the office, which is causing some issues, but we're going to get through it.
Great Wi-Fi at that office.
I know you embrace your running back. It's terrible. It's terrible. That's a story for another day.
I'll shut up.
So I know you embrace your. I know you embrace your running back combination. Is there a way that this can look where you will go with a lead guy at this point in the season? What would that look like? And is Katron close to possibly getting that status?
Yeah, I think, we did this last year and it was pretty successful. And we're doing it this year and it's been pretty successful. And we've talked a ton about the running backs and having a way to keep those guys fresh for the fourth quarter, but also for the length of their careers, not only at Penn State, but afterwards as well. So we feel very comfortable with the model and the plan and how we're using it.
Last question from Zoom, Corey Geiger.
Hi, James.
Hey, Corey.
You have faced challenges this year, both at Ohio State and in some other closer games. How much do you think the fact that your team has been challenged in some games has helped prepare you for this kind of opponent?
Yeah, I think it definitely helps. I think, whether it's being on the road or being at home or from a scheduling perspective, who we've played out of conference, all those things are decisions that you make and strategy that prepare you for games like this. So yeah, I think it's been helpful. I think it's been beneficial. There's been some games where I've watched them. There's been some games, not just the cut-ups. There's been some games where they've maybe started out a little slow or were down early on, but they've been able to wear people down over the last couple of years. And even if they gave up an early score or something like that, they've been able to wear people down and be able to get a significant dominant win. So I think it's helpful. But at the end of the day, we're going to have two of the best, if not the best defenses in college football in that stadium, very similar to what we faced when we went on the road a little bit earlier in the year. So it'll be a interesting game. It'll be a challenging game for both sides, and I think very similar to our last game. I think it could come down to a one-possession game.
Please raise your hand, and we'll take a mic to you. We'll start with Mark over here on the right.
Hey, James, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing great. You talked about gap accountability in that game last year against Michigan. How are you guys set up personnel-wise in terms of depth, size, those sorts of things on the defensive line and at linebacker? Maybe that's different than last year when you were playing these guys.
Yeah, I think, again, I think we're bigger up front. I think we have more depth. And I think sometimes, again, they do a great job of getting a hat on a hat and the backs being patient. So sometimes you feel like you've been in your gap long enough and now you want to go make a play on the ball, and their backs have been patient enough, and their line and tight ends have done a good job of getting a hat on a hat and being inside out and prying a crease. And Corum's shown that he doesn't need a whole lot of space. He doesn't need a whole lot of room to get the job done. So I think we're better positioned for that. I think we're bigger and more experienced at linebacker. Last year, we were pretty inexperienced at linebacker. So I think the combination of our front four and our experience and depth at linebacker gives us the best chance to continue to play great run defense, which is going to be very important in this game.
On the right, John.
Hey, James, how are you?
Good, John. How are you?
Doing good. After this past week, seeing what the wide receivers did, specifically Dante Cephas, do you feel like they've taken a step forward where they can play at a high level against defense like Michigan?
Yeah, obviously, Dante having a huge game last weekend was big for us. Keandre had a good game as well. The tight ends did some really good things. We just got to continue building on that. We have to continue building on that, not only this week, but then also on Saturday. We need some other guys to step up as well. We need Keandre to take the next step. We need Dante to take the next step. We need tight ends to take the next step. Because we're going to have to make some plays, in the passing game. I don't think there's any doubt about it. We're going to have to be as balanced as we possibly can with the run and pass, stay on schedule, but there's going to be times and opportunities where we're going to have to take our shots, which I know you guys will be happy about, and go from there.
Back left, Andrew.
Hey, Coach.
Andrew.
I want to circle back to a question I poorly asked on Saturday. Drew had probably, or maybe his best game of the season. He was also at his loosest during that game and after that game. Do you think the looseness came from a result of performance, or the performance came from a result of him being loose and feeling better about himself?
What is your looseness metric gauge?
So I'll explain. He was smiling. If you look back through photos, he was smiling from ear to ear for all 60 minutes. He just seemed like a happier, looser guy when we saw him on the sidelines. And is that response of how he played, or do you think that contributed to his performance?
Yes. My wife gets mad when I do that too. She asks me two questions, and I say yes because I think it's both of them. Yeah, I think obviously the more you play, the more comfortable you get, and the more confident you get, and the more relaxed you can be. I do think, being loose, being relaxed at every position, I think is important. That comes with preparation and confidence. And then obviously how we played helps with that as well. But besides that, I don't know if I have a whole lot more for you, but I think it's both, right?
On the right, Tyler.
James, your final quarter of the season, you've got 7 offensive linemen engaged by design right now. JB's back, and Caden was obviously able to get back. Is this setting up for the final stretch essentially ideal for your offensive line and the availability and experience that you've accrued there? And how do you think that they can finish out this season based on what you've seen lately?
Yeah, I do think that helps, and this is kind of your question, but going in a little bit different direction as well. I think we've also done a good job of managing the roster in terms of there's some guys that not sure how much they would have played in enough games throughout the season that burning their red shirt would have made sense. So we've done a pretty good job of managing it now that here at the end of the season, we should be able to play even more guys, specifically at the home games, because we don't have the issue with how many guys you're traveling. So there's some offensive linemen like Donka and Javen that I could see playing, more. as this season finishes up, starting this weekend. And that's at other positions as well on linebacker. Kavion Keys was all over me on Sunday after practice about wanting to get on the field, whether that's on defense or on special teams. And the reality is I think a lot of those guys could have and would have played this year, but I'm always struggling with, do they get enough reps that it makes sense? That was my concerns with Jameel Lyons. We ended up deciding to move forward with Jameel, but I want to make sure at the end of the year when we look back at the reps that it was enough reps that I feel good about it, Deion feels good about it, and Jameel and his family feel good about it, because there will be value for that moving forward. And then with the offensive line, specifically to your question, yeah, I think Shelton's gotten a ton of reps. I think Venga's gotten a ton of reps, which has helped, I think, keep both of our tackles fresh and healthy for most of the year. The easy thing would have been to say we're just going to leave Olu on the field, but getting Shelton over to left tackle, which is where he's most comfortable, I think has also helped Olu. Same thing with Venga. Venga being able to get reps at both guards on both sides of the ball, which again isn't always easy for guys to do that, to be able to go to both sides and get in different stances and have different opposite footwork. So yeah, I think that's been valuable. And again, hopefully with these other guys, getting some reps as well, that may help us even more moving forward.
Obviously tough to get back into it. I mean, we all know losing stinks, and so I think the best thing for us was, at least for me, was Sunday. To be able to get ourselves back in here. Yes, it happens faster, and to get our players back in here to go through what it is that what happened and watch the game film, and then go out there on the practice field and actually sweat a little bit to get that taste out of your mouth. But it's tough. It's difficult. I think that all of us, we talked about it. On Sunday as well. There was an expectation. There is an expectation, and unfortunately, we're not in a position that right now meets those expectations, but we can't allow that to stop us from growing and doing the things we got to continue to do. So, we said last week, flush it and then move on. And I thought our guys did a good job of it. We just, we weren't able to, get the job done this past weekend. So we've got to do the same thing. We've got to look at it. We've got to move forward, and we can't dwell upon the past. But we got to find ways to continue to move forward. We got to find ways to continue to get our best 11 guys on the field at one time. And then we ultimately got to find ways to win football games. So this is another great opportunity for us this week, but we got to have a great week of practice. Be honest with you, I thought, and I said this morning on the radio, Sunday might have been our best Sunday. I don't know why, but I thought those guys came out there, a lot of guys, limping and on an injury report, but yet then they go out there and do what you ask them to do, run around, sweat a little bit, compete a little bit, have a little bit of fun, in the midst of all the things that are going on, and they did. So I trust that this is the attitude that these guys have. Unfortunately, they've been through some adversity, obviously, last year, and they've handled it pretty well. And they came out on Sunday and handled it really well. So I'm excited about that and about moving forward and getting ourselves another opportunity to get this thing on the right track.
Luke, the Northwestern team you play this week, if you look at their stats, nothing really jumps out at you. But they've got a guy who was thrust into a difficult position, their head coach, head coach. What have you guys seen? Have you looked at their tape that has allowed them to win some games like Minnesota and battle Iowa right pretty much to the last possession?
Minnesota, Maryland. They got a lot of seniors. And I think you can look across the board and you see graduated senior, fifth-year senior, sixth-year guy. You can see that, yes, there's been some things that have happened and rattled them, but they've come together. I think they lost only a few guys in the midst of all the things that happened. And you see those teams that are built from within and built the right way. And what that means is sometimes down the stretch, they've gotten better. They're a little better than what they were maybe even at the beginning of the year in the midst of all the stuff that was going on. you're right. I mean, there's some things that don't jump out of it. Just like, you look at Iowa, there's some things that don't jump out of it other than, their ability to win football games. And so I think that Northwestern has put themselves in a good position pretty much every week to have an opportunity chance. And they're smart. They play to their strengths. They don't beat themselves. And they've got a few more, guys and playmakers than maybe people recognized, I think, from the get-go. And that's just maybe that's a lot of the experience that they've got.
Luke, when you watch yourself and kind of self-scout over the last few weeks, do you feel like the offense as a whole...
Watch myself or the actual team?
The team.
Okay.
Watch your
yes,
team.
I tried to watch myself.
Do you feel like the offense has done enough to make defenses defend the whole field the last few weeks?
No, I don't think... I mean, obviously we haven't done a good enough job. Making guys defend the whole field, sometimes just spreading the field doesn't do that. You got to have the ability to, get the ball out there and make some plays, even to take some shots. And I think that's where, there's a balance. You're trying to figure out how do we make people play us more honest. And sometimes that is, what we've said is using 53 1/3 wide, but also being able to get the ball down the field. And just haven't found ways to create some of those plays down the field. Especially this past week. I mean, we made a couple for, probably the first time in a while. We made obviously Bryson made one underneath and then turned it into a longer play, which is just something we haven't done enough of. But we got to find ways to continue to make people play us honest and defend the whole field, both laterally and vertically.
Luke, you mentioned after the Indiana game that as a coach, you have to help find ways to get this team over the hump. I imagine it's probably tough in the middle of a season to be reflective and think about that. But
I don't reflect a lot anyway, but yes.
Is there anything that has stood out to you feel like you could have done differently to get the team in a better position at this point, or anything you think you can do differently, the last 3 weeks?
I don't know. I mean, obviously you go back and you just say situations, whether it's, hey, we got to just find a way to win, kick the field goal, be a little bit more conservative. Those are things on me. But in the big picture, in the whole, I think ultimately, you got to make sure you got enough guys prepared. And when things have happened, whether, we've lost a couple tailbacks, and when things have happened, maybe we weren't built and prepared well enough for some of those other guys to go into the ball game. Is that done through, the offseason? Is that done through recruiting? I mean, I also think it's done in fall camp. And as I look back, maybe that's where we didn't go live in enough situations to make sure that some of those younger guys or other guys are battle-tested, that when they do go into the game. And there's been many years, spring football in particular, that we've made quarterbacks live, not maybe the starter, but a lot of times the 2 and the 3. And where you hold your breath, sometimes that's a really good situations to find out, put those guys in some of those positions, to play in live action, as well as running backs and a lot of others. So that might be the one thing that right now I'm kind of looking at to say with some of the guys that don't have as much experience that are playing for us, maybe in the spring we didn't do a good enough job at, putting them in live situations with their quarterbacks or running backs, or we didn't do a good enough job of that as well in fall camp.
Luke, Bryson Green had 4 catches for 96 yards, 6 targets in the first half, only 1 target in the second half. What did you like early on from the looks that he provided, and what happened in the second half?
I think most importantly, Bryson's one of those guys I would say who's your tough guys, who's your foxhole guys. I mean, there's no doubt that when the going gets tough, that Bryson's going to be right there. I mean, he's only been here for 9 months, 8 months, whatever it is. But from the day he walked in the door, when I met his dad, knowing the military background, all the things, walking away from his twin brother that was, at Oklahoma State to come here, you knew he had something deep down inside, a little bit of a grit, a toughness that you love. And, you're starting to see that as it gets down the wire here, that, those guys that, can battle and not let the emotions and the ups and the downs affect him, but make him only stronger. He's that guy that I would say that's who he is, and that's what he's starting to show.
We didn't have a chance to watch in preseason Tretch Kekahuna because he was hurt, but looks like he's worked his way up. I think he got a couple snaps on kick return.
Yeah, he was off returner on the kickoff return.
Yeah. What have you seen from him that's allowed him to get into that spot? What do you think he can provide down the road?
Well, we'll see. I mean, it's hard sometimes. You get into that latter half of the year, and the guy, not only has he not played in games, he missed all of camp pretty much. He missed all of pre. I mean, just he missed the first 5 weeks with a foot where he really couldn't do anything. And, so then the last 4 weeks, you kind of get him back and you're trying to get him in some rhythm and you're just trying to find places. Like he was real close to being on the kickoff team. But you're just like, God, I love the kid and I love his attitude and his toughness and things like that. But, it's just you've never put him in one of those situations. You've never, stuck him in there. And, be the first time in this situation. So it's been a little bit harder to get him in some of those situations. I think down the stretch he's going to have an opportunity, whether it's on special teams or finding ways to play a little bit more offensively. But he's got to be able to grasp the big picture of those things as you get into that week 7 and 8. But there's no doubt that, like we said about Bryson, you find out especially towards the end of the year, those guys that are just mentally, built a little bit different and guys got that toughness to them that we're going to need.
Luke, obviously the quarterback mobility and running in the ball, especially on those option keepers, was a big factor for your offense early on. Was there any thought in the last few weeks of putting in maybe a Miles or a Nick to add some of that mobility, or how do you feel like you can?
Yeah, those are thoughts, and but we've got to go with what we believe is the best way for us to win the football game. And right now that we don't believe that that's the way to do it. But as we continue to move forward, we might have to find some other ways. Even if they're little packages, even if they're, just opportunities for those guys. But you also, got to make sure you can take care of the football. And I think just like, I know it's different. We're talking about Tretch in a different position, but you throw, another guy or two in there at quarterback position that has taken 0 snaps. And you're in your last 3 weeks of the season. Boy, there's a lot of tough things, just trust-wise and taking care of the football and not putting yourself in a really bad situation. But I think that's the challenge for us as we move down the stretch, and that's the challenge I've had a little bit for the offenses. Based on some of the things we've got, we might have to be a little bit more creative and find ways to get some of the guys that can make some plays on the field, whether that's with their arm or with their feet.
Last week at this day, you said that at Sunday's practice that the injured guys didn't do much at all, meaning Braylon and Chim. Did they do any more yesterday? And I know you got Tuesday and Wednesday were the heavy practices, but do you have any idea whether they're
Chim
closer?
ran around.
Okay.
He ran around. He ran around. He warmed up last Saturday as well, and that doesn't always mean a whole lot, It means that their minds are in the right place. Their heads are in the right place. It means they are doing everything they want to be out there. But it was similar. You had some guys that were just dinged up from the game. The Will Paulings of the world that played a lot. The Jake Cheneys that ended up played a ton obviously, and then got dinged up. They go out there on a Sunday and give it everything they've got, and still don't feel great. Chim's the same way, and some of those guys. But it's hard to tell, at the pace at which you are on a Sunday that what does that translate to on a Tuesday, Wednesday, and even pushing through to a Saturday. So I wish I knew more.
Luke, last 3 games, Braden Locke's thrown the ball over 39 times at least in each game, completed just under 50% of his passes. Is that the situation? I know situational football has caused you guys to play from behind, but is that the situation you envision for him in his first 3 career starts?
I'm not sure what you're asking, but again, we want balance, regardless of who's at the quarterback position. We've got to do a better job at running the football. And, the first half last week, we did not. I think we ended up with 20-some yards rushing. So sometimes you got to put yourself in a situation where, okay, now what do we have to do to loosen some of this up? And, no matter what, no matter's in their corner, if we don't have balance, it's going to be tough for us. I just don't think that, I told these guys this on Sunday. It's just not like we're just going to, take shots on everybody. We're just going to create this, momentum and this energy. Like, we've got to find ways to be strategic with the things that we're doing. We've got to have balance so we can keep the defenses in particular when we're on offense, not knowing exactly what's going on, meaning, okay, hey, they become a pass-happy team or they become a run-happy team. For us to be successful down the stretch, there's got to be a balance to what we're doing, throwing, running, but also in finding ways to create yardage and plays within that. So it's not always, hey, we want 50% runs and 50% passes, but you want the majority of the balance being in the yardage that you can create. So that makes it harder on offenses and defenses when it's not just they've run the ball 42 times, but all of a sudden, they've run the ball 14 times, but they've got 128 yards rushing. So those are what I think the balance makes it much more difficult to play, and that's kind of where we're not right now.
Obviously, disappointing loss on Saturday. Appreciate all of our fans being there on a Military Appreciation Day, and thanks to all the servicemen and women that are in our armed forces and protect our country. So I just want to say thank you to all of you. We didn't do our part on the field. Congratulations to Illinois. But now we're looking forward to Purdue, and guys had a great day coming in yesterday, and really good start to the week. So with that, we'll open up for questions.
Two game-winning drives
Yeah.
late in games.
Yeah.
What sort of commonalities or similarities or areas to fix? Do you
Yeah.
see there?
We've also had a lot of times we've stopped people too. You know, I mean, when you go, I look at both sides, right? Because you're going to look at, we could have had those two, and you look back at the other side, and maybe there's two that, you know, we ended and we won with. His team could be 3-6. His team could be 7-2. We look at only the losses that should be wins. And I think that you got to look at it as a whole piece when you're a head football coach. To your comment, you're 100% right. To your question, you're 100% right. Northwestern game and the end of this Illinois game have a lot of similarities. One play, breakdown in communication. Shouldn't happen, can't happen. I got to do a better job coaching it. Simple. I mean, it all falls on me anyway. But you can't have that lack of communication where you think you have a little bit more support inside than you think you do when you don't. Right, and forces you to be a little more aggressive than when you shouldn't be. But again, that's a miscommunication piece, and that falls on the coaching staff.
Situational awareness or knowing the situation and after losses like that.
Right.
Why do you think it's been lacking at times?
We take a lot of pride in the situational football that we educate and teach. You heard me at practice, play the situation, not the play. Every team is very different. They're not all the same. The experience in those situations are not the same. You're developing that. I remember some really good players who weren't very good at that when they started that ended up winning a lot of games because they knew situational football. But we're going to learn from it. This team's all about learning. I mean, they grow and they learn and they grow and they learn. Are they perfect? No. Do they make mistakes? Absolutely. Our coach is perfect? No. But we constantly learn together and grow. I think one of the biggest plays is, and nobody really talks about, is 2nd and 7 before the 3rd and 4. You know, we run and go get that first down and eliminate it on a QB pull. We have a chance to go get it or bounce it. Bouncing it in the second quarter or first quarter might be okay. But doing it in that situation, going to get the first down and we're close to downtime at that point. It wouldn't be right in it, but we're closer. And forces them to use their timeouts very differently and forces the clock to continue to run. So again, those are learning moments. Nobody did anything wrong. It's just we got to realize that there's a difference between second quarter play and 4-minute play. And you can coach it, you can teach it, you can say it every day, you can talk about it till your face is blue. But when you go out there, there's nothing that's a substitute for game reps. Nothing, especially in college athletics. And unfortunately, we made too many of those tiny mistakes, and it cost us a game. But that's not the only thing. I'm just talking in a 4-minute drill as you're talking about. That's one that gets overlooked. I mean, the pop pass, I would never take that. I wouldn't take that back for anything. I mean, it's open, right? That's one to go end the game. You know, in Northwestern, we ran the ball. We had a punt. That's going to go win the game with that catch. And so again, we all live in hindsight. You know, we all live in what didn't work or did work. But when you're making the calls within the game at that moment, that's the exciting piece. You know, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work. You hope that it works a heck of a lot more than it doesn't. And but you got to give Illinois a lot of credit, you know, and our guys a lot of credit. They played a heck of a game. That was a heck of a football game. You know, I mean, we've lost 2 games that we're sitting here talking about, one in overtime, one by 1 point. You know, and I said that we're this close. This year's been this close. This is what I mean. It's those narrow games. But these are the games you really learn from.
What steps did Nathan take toward being more consistent?
I thought he played probably one of his best games. Now, again, same thing, that close. You got to take maybe 1 or 2 throws back. But I thought he was locked into the entire game plan. I thought he had a great week of preparation. And again, I keep seeing growth. I said it the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks in a row. Oh, I'm seeing growth. Leadership, consistency, accuracy, the ability to be in the pocket, take a hit, see the whole field. He's been really good, and he's playing with a lot of confidence. But again, we got to play the entire game, and this has been the whole thing with this team is is we still, to this date, 9 games in, have not played a complete complementary football game yet. We complemented each other at times throughout that game, but it wasn't a full 60 minutes of complementary football that maybe we're used to. Every team is completely different, and it's hard to compare teams to certain other teams. That's why I hate making comparisons when somebody asks me, who does this team remind you of? Well, it's hard because they're very different. You can give it in a wide range of maybe some familiarities, but every team is very different. There's a lot of football left to play. They had a great day of practice yesterday, or a great day of mindset with meetings and everything, and I don't expect anything less. And they're a pretty focused group, and they know that the learning is what matters right now.
I've already touched on this, but having watched the film, what was the miscommunication on that last play? What should have happened?
Goes in motion. We check it. We should have been able to get a lot more depth at the boundary or the free safety's position. Should have had maybe a little bit of help from the other safety in that situation with the multiple verticals, and maybe a little bit deeper at the linebacker position to start, and even to carry that inside, because you have it over the top, you have it on the inside, the number 3 vertical, and unfortunately had it underneath. We just didn't have the top on it, and so that's what it comes down to, and that's making sure that we get that communicated from a coaching standpoint, period.
What have you seen in Brev being able to bounce back like he has?
Yeah, that's the hardest part, is not everything's going to be perfect. I know Brevin hasn't maybe had the beginning of the season that he wanted, but boy, I think he's coming on really strong, and that's what Row the Boat's all about. It's not always going to be perfect, but he's kept his oar in the water. He's continued to work incredibly hard. I mean, you don't get to see the time and investment and the unrequired that he does by himself in the film study, on the field after practice, before practice, in the training room. And a lot of people could just quit. A lot of people say, hey, it's just not working out this year. Nope, he forced it to work out. And I think he's really bounced back, had a really good second half of the season, and look forward to his next 3 games as we go forward.
Message to the offensive line after struggling at times against Illinois.
Well, I thought we struggled at times, but I thought we also played pretty good football up front. That's the thing. It's just the consistency from the start to the finish. There was a time in the third quarter I didn't think we ran the ball particularly well. Now, again, you got to give Illinois some credit with that too. When 4 came in the game, they went more cover 2, right, and put more safety, more top of their coverage, and were able to do everything they can to stop the run with the front 7, especially with 4 coming back. And there were times I thought we handled it okay. Sometimes we didn't. Sometimes even at the running back position, I thought we could have been a little bit better. But we're talking pass pro towards the end, everybody pinning their ears back and coming after you when you have to throw it. It's a tough position to be in at times.
What's your overall message to the team with 3 games to go? You still technically got life in the West?
Absolutely, but we're talking about 1-game championship seasons. The only thing, we were 0-1 in the Illinois season, period. We didn't play well enough to win that football game. We've won some close games, we've lost some close games. But I think our team has been incredibly resilient. They're resolved. They're never quit attitude. I mean, that's what came in the doors yesterday. They had a great lift. We had great meetings. It was awesome. I mean, that's why I told you from the beginning, I don't know what this team's records are going to be, but I said they're really fun to coach, because this is probably the hardest working team from top to bottom since I've been here. And that's with all due respect. We have some hardworking teams. But from the start of January all the way to now, this team is just grinded. But that doesn't promise you anything. It gives you a better chance, but it doesn't promise you anything. And they work hard at everything. Their academics. And here he goes, Coach Flake's talking about the academics. I mean, yeah, I do. They work really hard at that. They work hard at their social life. They work hard at their serving and giving. We talked about what they did on Halloween. I mean, this is a really special football team of a group of young men, and I'm proud to be their coach, win or lose. I mean, that's the hard part. We only look at just the loss, and we jump on the loss. When they win, it's like, okay, that's the expectation, and I appreciate that. Appreciation and expectation kind of go hand in hand, and they have that as well. So, fun team to coach. They came back, bounced back, and looking forward to tomorrow's practice. But
PJ, speaking of academics, Ethan was just named Lindahl Center Academic Athlete of the Month. He had 59, I think, all Big Ten academic kids last year. Tell me about what goes into helping them succeed in the classroom and how it ties to your culture overall.
Yeah, well, obviously they're student athletes, period, right? Until somebody tells me they're professionals and we make them professionals, then they will always be student athletes, and student comes first. I'm a huge believer in that. Even when I went to college, I mean, I relied on all the resources I had to be able to have the success in the classroom, and that's what it's all about. School's one thing, but Jackie Lenish, Robert Day, who head up our academic department, all of our tutors, all of our learning specialists, they go into that. But our players attend class, and their expectation is to be in class, and not to just be in class, but be in the first 2 rows. Have your polo on, pay attention, talk to your professor, see him during study hours, our office hours. That's the first avenue to whatever you want to study in your life or whatever you want to become. We can help you with all the resources we have, but your professor probably knows way more in that department than I do, and they're the first avenue. And I want people at the University of Minnesota to say, I don't want them to say, I got a football player in class. I want them to say, I got football players in class, right? And I want them to be proud of that. I've spent some time in our law school. I've spent time in our Carlson School of Management. Those professors work incredibly hard, and that's their Super Bowl. And I want our players to understand that. How you do one thing is how you do everything. Academics are not separate. That is a piece of your life. And while you're doing that, that deserves every bit of your attention. So do we have high expectations academically? Yes. But you get what you emphasize. I believe that in life. And if you make that a priority and you make that an expectation, maybe some people don't. But here, we do. And it's really important to me. It's really important to hopefully their families. And it's really important to them as student athletes. And they'll get that one day. I'm not saying that I loved going to class in college. I think you'd probably say the same thing. At times, I'm not sure. Every single day. There was one stat class I hated. I did not like going to. That was not my jam. And but you went because you knew that you were accountable to something bigger than yourself, not just the team, but to you down the road. And whatever you did now, that was going to catch up later. It was going to catch up to you later, good or bad. So proud of them academically, but that's not why you all showed up, I'm sure, to talk and write in your reports and your articles. So, but thank you for asking that.
Couple things. First of all, I want to wish women's soccer team luck today as they find out their draw in the NCAA tournament as the Big Ten champs. So really proud of them. Want to wish best wishes to men's and women's basketball as they start their seasons today. Excited to see what they do and get to start watching them play. So we're excited about this football game this week. It's an excellent team coming to town, a dynamic offense. As Tagovailoa is as good a quarterback as there is in the Big Ten. I've known Mike Locksley. He was college friends with my cousin. I've known him since I was about 15 years old. So a lot of respect for what he's done and the process he's done in building that team. It's as athletic and explosive a team as we'll face all year. So third-ranked offense in the Big Ten, be a real challenge for us, and one that we're excited for, though. So with that, I'll see what questions you guys have.
What was Prince Wells' injury Saturday, and what's his availability this week?
He was in the protocol, and so wasn't able to get out of it. So wasn't healthy. I shouldn't say that. So potentially we could see him this week.
After you look at the film on the offensive side, did you pick up anything that maybe you didn't see initially?
Yeah, the shame of it to me is that there were times where the first drive of the second half would come out and we're running the ball and we're getting 12 yards and 15 yards. But the two things that we need in order to score with kind of where we are right now, we either need an explosive play or to convert third downs. And I know it seems pretty obvious, but those aren't always happening for us. And so, on both touchdowns, we had an explosive play that allowed us, Heinrich on a scramble, Heinrich on another scramble. But in terms of coming out and hitting a big pass or hitting a big play, didn't have enough of those in the flow of the game until the game got behind us. So, we had runs that got to the last available tackler, and he made the tackle. So, they came out in the second half much more aggressive. They pressured us. But, I'll be honest with you, I say that every week. Just kind of how people play us. They pressure us, and we're not quite, beating them, to the level we want. Came out with a reverse. It's a play away. It's about this far away from being a home run, and so we have to make some of those plays to win these games, to score more points and help the defense out, especially on a day where the defense wasn't quite at its normal self. And, you know, I thought down the stretch, to be honest with you, I told the team, I said, this could have been one of those days that we show our team forever, like, hey, this is how you handle the fourth quarter. You're down 10 points. You get these stops. You get the ball back. And, you know, we're really, I mean, if the ball gets to the 40-yard line, we're going to kick the field goal, and I think he's going to make it. And unfortunately, just couldn't get those last 15 yards. So, you know, hopefully for us, it's a real growing experience. You know, you got those 3 freshman receivers out there, and they're playing man, and they're aggressive, and they're grabbing us. And I kind of warned them during the week, it's going to be like backyard football. You're going to have to rip off, and hopefully from what was, you know, a very disappointing game, there'll be some things that our guys take away from it. But I'll say, Steve, we had some real missed opportunities on offense that you know, to me, you have to win games in November.
You mentioned the defense. How much of Saturday was just general wear and tear, getting a little banged up, and how do you balance having that edge in practice with being, you know, keeping your team healthy and fresh in November?
Yeah, I don't think any of it was that. I mean, we got beat on man on the first drive, man to man, guy doesn't play his guy in man, extends the drive. Tampa 2, the middle player comes running down on a draw fake, and the ball gets thrown over his head. Double pass, the corner comes running up. Touchdown pass, guy jumps outside, thinking it's a fade, the guy runs a slant. None of that has anything to do with any of that. You know, what we're learning, everything is about learning how to win, and I think we've learned how to learned how to win, but winning in November is completely different. You get everybody's best. You know, they game when you come in with a winning record, they game plan you, and they attack you, and they take their shots at you. And, you know, we're in man to man with a middle defender. They're throwing posts down the middle of the field, and we got to pick those balls off. Like, there's plays that I know our guys can make that when we got to that moment, we just didn't go make them. And so that falls on me. Like, my job is to teach them how to win these games in November. Like, you have sacks, you need the sack fumbles. Ball gets batted up in the air, we catch it in the red zone, and then we drop it. So, you know, and I'm not talking about Mekhi dropping it. I think Mekhi can catch that ball too. So I don't think any of it is wear and tear, because, you know, they might have had a run here and a run there, but we stopped the run like normal. We got to the quarterback. But if you look back through the course of this year, our defense has done a lot of really, really great things. We have not taken the ball away enough, and we give up explosive passes. And the explosive passes, it's one thing when the guy jumps up and catches the ball on you. We keep playing. It's another thing when we're just not doing our job and missed assignment. And so I think the guys would all say that. I say that with the greatest respect for our players. I love our players. I just want them to understand that they don't have to do anything special. They just have to do what they do. I thought this would be the game the offense answered and helped, and we just didn't get that done. And on special teams, we didn't get it done. You know, I hold myself accountable for the punt returns. I should have given Ethan some more chances on punt return. You know, as I looked out there, I kept seeing the gunners kind of running down and being in their face, and I didn't want to put a freshman out there for the first time in that type of a ball game. But I called him in on Sunday, and I said, hey, Ethan, I should have given you more of a chance, because when he got his chance, he was ready. So I hold myself accountable just like we hold everybody else accountable. But I don't think any of it, honestly. I think it's the discipline to do exactly what you're trained to do, and not do something different when you get to what is perceived as a big game.
When you have a game where you don't have any penalty yards against your team, is that just entirely a good thing, or is there anything about that you can look at in a critical way in terms of your aggressiveness? How did you see that?
Oh no, I mean, we got a couple where we were hitting guys out of, like, by the sidelines and out of bounds. I thought could have been called against us. So it's a unique game to talk about the officiating. You know, I have a lot of respect for officials, and you guys asked me after the game, and I needed a minute to, you know, but I do feel like I have to say something in defense of our team too. Like, I can't imagine what it's like to be out there and have to call a play. And so I don't usually say very much about, like, you know, the pass interference on Malachi. That's pass interference, right? I mean, I think everyone knows it after the game, the face mask on Heinrich. But I'm not out there doing what they do. And if we don't have officials, we can't have sports. And so I don't want to complain about those things. But it's we're sitting here at 5-4. This is my 4th head coaching job. I'm in year 11 as a head coach. I've never had a touchdown wrong on replay. And we've had it, you know, we've lost 2 games by 3 points. We've had it wrong twice this year. It was wrong at Minnesota, and it was wrong here. And that doesn't mean we lost the game. We're not excuse makers, right? We have to do our best to keep it away from that. But the type of team we are right now, we can't have 7 points spotted. And again, I'm not complaining about officiating, but replay's difficult for me to understand. And so, you know, I know that the people in the Big Ten are working hard at it. I have a lot of respect for them. I'll stay silent on it after that. But I really would have liked, I really would have liked to have had one more shot from wherever we were at the end of the game, the 45-yard line, to hit an in-cut, take a knee, and kick that field goal. And I feel bad for our players that So we're sitting at 5-4. We own 5-4. But, we had one game where the team scouted us. We've had 2 games where replay was wrong. I mean, that's tough to swallow. But you know what? That's where we are. We are where we are. And the issues about giving up sacks and turning the ball over, those are the main issues that we're going to work on controlling. But you guys did ask me about that, and I did want to answer that.
Do you get any feedback from the league? Explanations, especially that last one, the incomplete pass. It wasn't called an incomplete pass.
I'll just leave it at this. I think everybody is on the same page that was not a catch for the touchdown. I think everybody's on the same page that was not a fumble and either should have been ruled or should have been gone to replay and overturned. There's a difficulty with the speed of those things sometimes. I don't have a timeout to challenge it because we used our timeouts at the end of the game. I think everyone's on the same page. Even in replay, there's a human error factor, but. Our players did deserve one more play, and that shouldn't have been a touchdown. But that is what it is, man. We got to play better to not put ourselves in those positions moving forward.
Coach, I'm not talking with any of the quarterbacks in practice about things like situational awareness, when to force the issue, when to check it down, and just take your losses and move on. What do those conversations look like, and how does that kind of look on the field?
I think we're always talking about situations. I think the biggest thing is with young quarterbacks, a lot of times there's expectation. It's 3rd and 12, and you're trying to force a seam route when the shallow's open, and sometimes you catch that ball and maybe he runs for a first down. Sometimes you have to play through those things. I think you're trying to always teach those. There's a fine balance, I think, between letting guys play, and then sometimes you have to kind of try to jolt them back into the moment. But hopefully you build up enough trust with the guys that they understand when you're doing which and why you're doing it. I think there's a science to coaching and probably an art to coaching, and it's probably about doing a little bit of each.
How do you analyze how Heinrich's, growing on the job and how he's taking teaching from games like Saturday?
Here's what I love about Heinrich. Not everyone would want to be the quarterback in this situation right now. There's a lot of pressure. There's a lot riding on your shoulders. Like if you don't play well, if you don't execute the option well, if you don't execute the zone reads well, if you don't execute the power sweeps well, if you don't throw the ball well, there's not a lot of margin for error for us on offense right now. We don't play well. And so every play is really kind of squarely on his shoulders. And as we continue to grow, you're hoping that you just hand the ball off every once in a while, and we're just playing at a level where it's not all on his shoulders. But to go out and be the quarterback on a team that's battling every week in close games, you have to want to do that. Everyone says they want to do that. You have to want to do that. And that's what I respect so much about Heinrich. He wants to do it. He wants to be out there. He wants to get. And so, as I've told him, when I coach Heinrich, I'm not coaching him for right now. I'm coaching him for next year and the year after. Not that we're not trying to win right now, but we're going to address everything as it comes, and we're going to push him through because I think he's a winner. I think he's tough, and I think he's learning on the job. And I think he didn't play for a couple of years, and so he's catching up. He just, it'd be one thing if we were sitting here at 2-6 and 2-7, and no one was paying attention, and you can kind of make mistakes. Here, the games are all in the balance, and everyone's watching, right? And so, over the years, I've always found freshmen tell me they want to play, and then all of a sudden, every game's tight and every game's close, and they don't quite want to play anymore. It's like, well, coach, there's a lot of pressure here. Let me redshirt and get to the next year. Heinrich wants to play, and he wants to compete, and so we try to go through everything. Even to get back in the game, the throw to Malachi and some of the throws he made were unbelievable, right? The one to Fedoni is just a little bit high. If that ball's just a little bit lower, then Fedoni catches that ball. So just always working with Heinrich on his accuracy. And we're asking him to do a lot of things. We're asking him to drop back and throw it, play action and throw it, run the option. He's battling for his teammates. So as I said, I have the ultimate respect for him and the way he goes about his business, and he's learning on the job, as we all are right now.
You mentioned punt returner.
Right, good morning. Appreciate everybody being here. I just want to begin by just really proud of our guys, the way they battled on Saturday, and last couple weeks, been able to see some growth. I love the way our guys have prepared the last couple weeks and starting to play complementary football, eliminating mistakes. Didn't have any penalties by our offense, no turnovers by our offense. Scored the opening drive of the game, which is a great tone setter. and then defensively getting off the field in the first drive and several drives to start the game. Finally got us a takeaway on a fumble recovery. It's taken many games to get to that. We got 2 of those for the game. Counting the 3 fourth down stops, had 5 opportunities where we consider those takeaways by our guys, by our unit. So those were huge in the game, and just feel like that secured the football on the punt returns and no penalties on special teams. Just playing all 3 phases, working together. Got some good flip to field with our punter again, pinning them down inside and making them have to punt and getting points off of that. And then obviously at the end, getting the key stop. Aaron Casey was phenomenal, as we all saw, and the big sack he got and knock him out of field goal range and then be able to take the ball and get some key first downs, make them, burn their timeouts and kick a field goal right in that area where you try to make a decision of what you need to do. And trusting Chris, and he did a great job. So proud of our players. We just go through and try to recognize players of the game. Brendan Sorsby on offense was our offensive player of the game. Just really proud of his development. Just showed, growth, poise, toughness, made some really big throws, and still had some opportunities. We left some things out there offensively. Didn't play consistently in the second half to where we need to be, for sure. But he did a really good job of distributing the football and continue to grow and develop for him. Aaron Casey was the defensive player of the game, as you would expect. Just 9 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, caused fumble. Just played the way I believe and I know he can, and he was very motivated he didn't love the way he played. This past week was solid, but the week before that was not, and he's really taken some ownership of that and just taking it personal to make sure he's playing his best football, and I thought he just did a tremendous job in every way. Special teams, players of the game, James Bamba and Chris Freeman. James did a great job with our punt team. It makes all the checks and the calls and getting everything right there. I thought that was excellent, and they were a big pressure team, so thought he was really huge in that. Scouts of the week, defensive scout, Tootie Collins. Tadarius is his birth name. We call him Tootie. That's his name that he goes by. Going to be a really good football player for us, and excited for his development growth. Drew Pierce does a great job for us every week in so many ways. So proud of him. On defense, offensively, scouts, Austin Barrett, one of our true freshmen, really talented players, really developing, working hard. Declan McMahon brings great energy as well. Players love him. Just has great personality, works really hard, and helps us get better. And love having him on our team. And then special teams, scouts of the week, Reese Bellin and Reese Lozano. Just 2 guys that work extremely hard and consistently, giving us great looks in special teams and also in their offensive positions. So proud of our football team. Got to continue to get better. Got a great opportunity and challenge this week as we travel to Illinois. A team that's playing really good football, their best football of the season. Got a big win this past weekend, and a big physical football team. Have the biggest back we've played against, biggest running back, very athletic quarterback, really talented receivers, and then a big physical defense, one of the best defensive lines in the Big Ten, and a team that has played well defensively. So just a very well-coached football team in all phases. A lot of respect for Coach Bielema and the job that he's doing there, and we have to continue to develop. We got to be able to build off the momentum we have from this past weekend and just keep getting better and play our best football this coming Saturday. So, questions?
Yeah, Tom, Khalil Benson didn't finish out that game. Joshua Sales played. Is Benson out? Worry about him long term, and Omar Cooper the same way. He went out early. I know you said you're relying on the reports, but just curious if either of those kind of
Yeah, so since those guys left the game, so don't know about either one of them at this point. We'll do our availability report. Don't expect any of them to be long-term situations. But do want to announce that Cam Camper will not be returning this season. Had a procedure done over the weekend, and just to try and help him for his long term. And excited about the procedure going well, and getting him 100% healthy for the future, and be able to help him in that regard. So that's definitely one that we wanted to make sure we were clear on with his status. And so if a player is out for the rest of the season, we would say that publicly, and then if not, we use the available report to be able to allow us to announce those injuries.
Is Campers related to his previous injury, or
it's the same situation? It's just kind of a chance to really kind of get it cleaned up and help him have a really, really, really 100% clean future.
Tom, Jordan Shaw has, I think somebody may have asked about him on Saturday, but he's played a lot. He was your co-leading tackler on Saturday against Wisconsin. I know he was a guy that had, I think, some accolades coming out of high school and all that kind of stuff, but just what is the trajectory he's been on? It just feels like we've seen a lot more of him the last 2-3 weeks. I recognize there have been some injuries, but what has maybe gotten him to be a guy that's not just filling gaps, but getting a lot of snaps?
Yeah, I think that even before, the injury to Noah, he was a guy that we had just noticed in practice. You think about, and I talked about these with our team on Sunday, when you're a young player, you get your opportunities on the scout teams or on special teams, and guys start flashing and they start making plays, and they just, the way they move and the way they finish things and how they drill and how they prepare catches coach's eyes. And then we say that's your responsibility to convince your coach that you should play, and we put that on them and just make your coach say, man, we got to find a way to get that guy on the field. And that's kind of what started happening in practice with him, and really has high level coverage skills, has really elite ball skills as a guy that was a two-way player in high school and a return man. And so because of the situation with Noah, that allowed us to be able to, kind of catapult him to a higher role, probably a little faster, but he was ready when called upon. As you mentioned, he was our co-leading tackler on Saturday and was matched up with their best receiver many, many times. And so just really excited for him, and his opportunity he was given, and he took full advantage of it. And so came into the Penn State game a couple weeks ago and made some big plays there and showed me that he was ready to take that next step and be given some more responsibility. So definitely put a lot on his plate pretty quickly, but he responded well. So I think he'll continue to grow and develop. And he's just he's a tough kid. He's got a really good football IQ. And as you mentioned, we had high hopes for him, expectations for him coming out of high school, and he's proven to be a guy that's going to have a great future here.
Tom, obviously with Cam out and with Omar, I guess we'll find out, but E.J. Williams' return was timely. Can you talk about how that kind of at least kept that unit from slipping off a little bit, and what his production has meant to Brendan so far?
There's no question, like you said, the timing is huge, getting him back, and because Cam really hasn't played a lot lately, and so EJ's length and speed, he's our fastest and longest receiver combination that we have, and so really excited for him. Made some big plays for us. He's a big enough guy to break tackles and can stretch the field. So going to need him to continue to elevate and continue to be a guy on the rise, which we're seeing right now from him. So really, really proud of him. And as Donovan McCulley continues to elevate his play and be a guy that we know we have to be able to count on and to step up and make plays. So EJ is a guy we had high hopes for when we brought him here, and unfortunately had the injury in week 1 that really set him back, but he just stayed positive, stayed the course, kept training and kept working, was doing all the things he needed to do to get back, and was ready to go when he got back. And so now he's played a couple games, and you just keep each week, he just gets more and more confident with Brendan and our system and everything we're doing here. So big expectations for EJ in these next few weeks.
Tom, with I believe the Big Ten has honored Aaron Casey for his performance. Just talk a little bit more about that. And the way he has responded. Not everybody responds well to adversity, but obviously he has with the way he performed the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I think that just a testament once again to his character. He was really bothered by how he played against Rutgers, to be honest with you, and we weren't afraid to hold him accountable for that because he's a leader and he's expected to play at a high level each and every week, and he didn't do that, and he knew that, and he sought me out, and so just love the way he's responded to that, and being the leader of our team, and definitely leader of our defense. When you're a captain, as a linebacker, you got to lead that side of the ball just by default because that's what linebackers do. But when you're selected captain, you got to lead the team, and so just being a consistent guy that practices hard every day, does little things right on and off the field, and getting recognized for the defensive player of the week, Big Ten player of the week this week is huge and very well deserving. He was very, very impactful in that game, as we all saw, and it just I think he kind of willed us to win that game, because we obviously had to have those stops and tackled extremely well, which is what we expect him to do. He's one of our best tacklers in space, and that's something that needs to be consistent for him to do that. So just really excited for him, and we're going to need that leadership down the stretch here. And as we've talked about, we know what's at stake. We know where we're at. What we have to do each and every week is 1-0 mindset, and he's the leader of that group.
Hey guys, thanks for coming out today. Hope everybody's doing well. So here we go, week 10, going out to Iowa City. Huge challenge. So much respect for what Coach Ferentz has done at Iowa over a long period of time, and really what they've done lately. I mean, if you look at their last 15 games, they're 12-3, and then you look at what they did in what they've done over the last 4 years. In the month of November, they're 15-1, which is astounding. So we certainly, going into one of the toughest places to play in America against a team that's leading the Big Ten West, 7-2. We got a big challenge ahead of us. So it's, right back at it every week in the Big Ten, and that's the way we like it. So we got a lot of work to do between now and Saturday, and then we'll go lay it on the line. Questions?
Iowa's defense, obviously they're one of the top ranked in the nation. I mean, what do they do so well that they're able to sustain that and play at that high level?
Yeah, they have a philosophy of how to play defense, and they stick to it. It's not that they don't tweak anything from time to time, but they know how they want to play. They train their people in their program. They're a developmental program as well, and they develop their players, and they develop them in a system, and they're a lot better at doing it when they're there 4 years than they are at 1 year, but they just keep getting better and better. Very much, what we try to do here. So they're very good at it. Coach Parker's been there for a long time, the defensive coordinator, and there's a reason they're good.
Made a lot of history here at Rutgers. Do you still relish the opportunity to make history, accomplish first? I ask because Rutgers has never beaten Iowa, never won at Iowa City. Do you relish the opportunity to maybe make history for this program?
Yeah, I don't really look at it as making history. I'm just trying to be 1-0 this week. And it happens to be that the team that we're trying to be 1-0 against, we've never beat. But at the end of the week, that's all we all want to do in our program is be 1-0 at the end of the week. And certainly a huge challenge. Like I said, I've been to Iowa City a few times to play. And it's a really tough place.
Coach, this is a Rutgers offense that is most improved in the Big Ten in terms of scoring offense and yardage. What role do you feel the offensive line's improvement plays into that?
Well, I think it's huge. I mean, if you just look at it in sheer numbers, offensive line makes up 5/11ths of your offensive football team. So if they get better, then a large portion of your offense gets better. But I think we're just kind of moving along, like I've said to you all along. It's a developmental program. We're developing guys. Coach Shiraka's new, so some of the things that he came and presented when he got here were different for our guys, and they're getting better at it. We just have to go out and have a great week of practice, and we're beat up like everybody else, right? It's week 10 in the Big Ten, and you're beat up. But it's a matter of who handles it best. And I know Iowa's got injuries. We got injuries. That's the way it is right now. You just got to go out there and play your best.
You see a lot of similarities between Rutgers and Iowa, the way you guys play defense and overall attitude and things like that.
Do I see a lot? Boy, I hope so. I have like I said, I have nothing but great respect for Coach Ferentz and the way that he's built his program over the last 25 years. And had we stayed, had I made the right decision and stayed here, it would be very similar, I think. But we didn't. We took a 9-year break, so we're playing catch up for sure. But I do have so much respect for how they play and what they do, and we're just we're in a spot where we're getting better slowly, and we just got to continue to do that. And will it be enough? We're going to find out here in whatever it is, 5 days, 6 days.
comment on guys obviously closing in or getting close to 1,000 yards. What message do you think that sends to kids in high school who maybe aren't highly recruited about what they can become at a high level program and in a major
I think it shows that, you know what, if you come and you love football and you're willing to pay a price, because it's not easy, it's really hard. But if you're willing to pay the price, that you can be successful and be successful at the highest level. And Kyle's demonstrated that. And, it's well chronicled that he was not the most highly recruited guy, but you know what, he's our kind of guy and he's doing a great job, and I think the whole running back room's doing a great job.
Saturday, Isaiah Aiton, 5 tackles, stepping in, seeing some more reps. What did you see from his performance and his development?
He came from Ole Miss. They play a little different style. They're more of a 2-gap, 3-4 team most of the time, at least on early downs. So it's been a transition for Isaiah for sure. He's getting better slowly, and we just keep progressing him. We play a lot of people, as you know, in the front, so we rotate. But playing single gap control defense is a lot different than playing 2-gap, and he's learning and getting better at it every week.
Coach, comment on guy, 500-plus yard games. Each of the last 3 games, he's eclipsed that mark. Do you feel like he's getting better and being more effective as a rusher as the season goes on?
I do think he's getting better. I think the line's getting better. The tight ends are getting better. The receivers are getting better. The quarterback's getting better. So I think, it's the old saying, right, all ships rise with the tide. And I think that Kyle is a big part of making that happen, but he's also part of being around other guys that are doing well. So, but we're not anywhere close to where we need to be, but we are getting better, and that's the key.
Gavin has the lowest completion percentage amongst FBS quarterbacks, qualified 200 dropbacks. Is his inaccuracy holding this offense back?
Is it holding it back? No, because I think Gavin does so much to help our offense. Does it have to get better? Absolutely, it has to get better. Completions come as a result of protection, correct routes, and then throwing and catching the football. So everybody contributes. But at the end of the day, it goes on whose record? The quarterback's. Like, he gets the completion percentage. The receivers don't, the line doesn't. So, and at the end of the day, we need to be more accurate with the ball, for sure. So we're working on it. But like everything else, we're developing, and I'm sure he's going to get better at it.
With Reggie Sutton, how is he now that he's a few games back? I mean, how is he continuing to manage that workload? And I guess, how do you balance that during the week of making sure that he's not doing too much that it's going to set him back at all?
Yeah, it's hard. Gratefully, the bye week came at a point where he played and then he got to have a week off. But there's no weeks off now. I mean, it's week after week. So we have to really do a good job, as you said, managing his workload. And he's got to communicate honestly with us, which he does. He's great with that. And we got to find that happy medium between too much is no good, right? But you got to have enough so you're sharp and can go play at the level. Otherwise, it doesn't matter. But Reggie's a mature guy, and he's helping us with that.
We didn't get to ask you about Mayan Anahatu's injury coming off the last game, so I just wanted to check in on that.
Yeah, he was not available Saturday. I think he will be available this Saturday, which is good because he's a leader and a big part of our defense.
Bill, you were busy in the first quarter, but they made an announcement about NIL and the Knights of the Raritan on Saturday. How important has that become as part of your job and just kind of part of the progress and the development of the program, the NIL side of things?
Yeah, I mean, it's a game week right now, so I'm going to stick to Iowa, but it's a good question because I didn't see it, but I heard that there was one. It's paramount in what we're doing right now. I mean, that is where college football is, and you have to be able to be competitive in that landscape, and we have to be able to be competitive in that landscape, and it's not going to get less. It's going to only get more. We've had guys that have performed at a high level. Well, you know what? There's going to be people that are trying to get them off our team. That's the facts. And there's going to be guys that we're going to not only want to keep our own guys here, but we're going to want to go out and pursue. And we have to be able to do the things that Big Ten teams do to be competitive and to be able to eventually be champions. So every bit helps, but we need every bit.
Iowa's been in a lot of close, low-scoring games, just the design of how they play on both sides of the ball. The projected same thing to happen this Saturday. When you play in a game like that, is it something? Does the margin of error increase even more because the crucial plays are so far and few between? Just how does low-scoring games? How do you?
Yeah, I mean, the margin of error in the Big Ten period is very small, right? The margin of error a couple days ago was about as small as it gets. So yeah, but we're used to playing with that. That's the only way we play. The margin of error is like that. And when you're like a team like we are, where you're developing and building and growing, because we're still right in that phase where we're developing and growing, you make some mistakes, you don't get it back. I've said it always, there's no such thing as missed opportunities because someone always takes it. And in this case, if we don't take it, Iowa's going to take it. So, yeah, that's life in the Big Ten.
We talked a lot about Kyle Monangai. You've coached a lot of great running backs here in your career. Where does what he's doing this season rank amongst the greatest performances you've seen from a running back?
Yeah, I'm going to hold on, kind of comparing him to others because, he still has quite a bit of work left in this season. But I'm very pleased with the way Kyle has performed, the way he's worked. I'm equally as performed the way he leads off the field, the way he handles himself academically. I say it every week, this is an incredibly competitive academic institution. And Kyle serves as not only a great role model how to play football here, but also how to handle your academics. He's a great student and a guy that's going to be hugely successful in life. And, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, these guys are in the thick of it right now. On the back end of midterms, now all of a sudden the workload is so hard academically that I do get concerned because some days I stand in front of them here early in the morning and you can see they're tired. And it's something that we have to manage. So it's not only the Reggie Suttons of the world, but it's managing the whole workload of the team going into week 10 academically as well as the burden they put on their body. So I'm proud of the way they work. It's part of what you do when you come to Rutgers. But it's all well worth it. Thanks, guys.
There's 3 games left. So sort of what are you going to be looking for here down the stretch? You're 2-7, obviously, but there's still a lot you can get accomplished, right?
Yeah, the message, obviously, like everybody can count to 6, right? And so the path to postseason play is not there. And then it breaks my heart for the seniors, the guys that have exhausted eligibility, and this will be their last season. And so the message to the team on Sunday was, really, this is like a new season within a season, right? These last 3 games for the guys, that will be the last time that they put on a uniform to close out the right way and to be remembered about the way you finished the season and the way you went out and fought and competed. And then for the guys that are coming back, it's the start of a new season. And how do you want practice to be ran? How do you want the games to be played? How do you want next season to look? And that's got to show up in these next 3 games. And so it'll be a good benchmark for the way we need to operate in closing out the season and really to push momentum forward into next year.
You talked a little bit in the post game on Saturday night about some of the young guys. Took Ahmad Branch on the trip, I think you said. Zion Steptoe got some reps. Just talk about some of the young guys. I think Jimmy Liston played. Some of the young guys that you'll be looking at, and maybe some guys who've already caught your eye.
Yeah, obviously they're the true freshmen that have played already are continuing to improve. I thought Zion did well. It was good to get baptized in the big house, right? There's not going to be a bigger venue than to get your first meaningful reps. I thought that was good for him. He played well while he was in there. You can talk about Derek Rogers and Dylan Thieneman and Will Helt on defense. On offense, you got George Byrne, who's been playing a lot, and Jerron Tibbs has gotten reps. Ahmad Branch got moved up. There could be some others, specifically, with sort of the way the roster has been going, just from an injury standpoint. And so those guys will continue to improve, and if they are deserving of reps on game day, they'll get reps on game day.
And so talk about the situation at offensive tackle. It seems to be pretty dire right now. I guess you really don't have a third offensive tackle. Talk a little bit about Gus swinging out to play tackle at one point and just not having 2 of your 3 best offensive linemen. You've got to really compromise that offense, I think, right now.
Yeah, it's been, I give those guys a lot of credit. They are fighting their tails off. I give Coach Johnson a lot of credit, just being able to plug guys in different positions and still be able to function from a schematic standpoint is incredible. I give Gus a lot of credit, right? He is, I think he's arguably one of the best centers in the Big Ten. And for him to be able to go out and play tackle and not lose a beat there, I thought it was good to see. But yeah, that's just the reality of the situation we're in. Kaltenberger was unavailable last week because of some back issues, and so we had DJ and we had Ben that were available. Those guys are also pretty dinged up, and so when one of them had to go out, we had to slide Gus out to tackle and put Austin in there at center. I felt like that gave us our best chance to function and be competitive up front, and so that's what we did. And I thought those guys did a good job.
How do you think the line being compromised has really impacted Hudson Card? You think he's gotten any gun shy at all? You think he's developed any happy feet because of maybe the sense that he's not going to have much of a pocket to work from?
I thought the Nebraska game there were instances of maybe some happy feet and not trusting it. I thought the other night though, he for the most part did he play perfect? No, like nobody has played perfect, especially against that defense. Like let's not kid ourselves. That was a good defense. And so I didn't think he had happy feet. I thought the times he escaped were because he had to escape in order to avoid taking a sack or avoid a loss. And I think what Hudson showed was trust in the offensive line and trust in his teammates, because he did step in there and make some throws. He did escape when he had to. And I thought those guys they fought as hard as they could for him, so that's kind of what was the case last game.
Ryan, I feel like we ask something like this every week, but Mershawn Rice made a big play for you early in that game and then never came back. I assume he's probably done too.
Yeah, he's done for the year.
Abdur, you said he might play last week. Obviously didn't. Does it look like he's got a shot to play against Minnesota?
I'm not sure. It's he's hurt right now, and he's not ready to play. So just where we're at.
Sorry, it's not funny, but
no, I get it.
Minnesota, you can't really put your finger on them. They've won ugly, won shootouts, but every single game, other than the game against Michigan, looks like at the end of the game they're right there with a chance to win it.
Yep.
So you're probably preparing for a team that it's going to go down to the final plays of the fourth quarter with.
Absolutely, and then the last two times I've played them, it's been that way, right? I got a lot of respect for Coach Fleck and what he's been able to do and accomplish at two different spots now. His teams, they play smart, they play tough, they play physical. You kind of know what you're going to get on both sides of the ball, but they just do what they do well. And they put themselves in a position to win a game in the fourth quarter. So every time you turn on the tape, you see four-quarter games. And so, I think offensively, they run a lot of RPOs to give the quarterback some answers to unfavorable boxes in the run game. They got a tight end that's as good as any in the country. It's been fun as a coach, right? Not as somebody that's about to go against him, but just game planning. This will be my third time game planning against him, just to see his growth. I thought the first year we played him, he had a lot of potential, but didn't really like to mix it up in the run game. Then last year I was like, okay, he's starting to develop into a tight end, and he is serviceable in the run game, and they can do all the things he asked him to do. And now he's a good tight end. Like he is a complete player. Obviously the measurables are what they are, and you can't teach that. But it just shows how much work he's put into the game of football and working on his craft, that he's a complete player now. You look at defensively, they much like an Iowa team that kind of does what they do, a lot of quarters, a lot of quarter half, but they do it really, really well. I think number 27, the safety is as good a safety as there is in the country. I was surprised he came back this year. I thought based on just crossover games and watching him a year ago, I was like, shoot, he's going to be gone. And all of a sudden I see him at Big Ten Media Days, and I'm like, what are you doing? So I'm sure they're happy that he's there. He's making a ton of plays like he always does. And so they got good players. They got sound scheme, and they're well coached, which is why, they're in every game up until the fourth quarter.
This is somewhat of a random question, but what is the value in a quarterback like Kyle Adams, who he knows his role, he knows he's not going to get in the game, but he prepares like he's going to play the game, and seems to have a football savvy that probably helps Hudson out more than anything, and that's kind of his role with this team.
Yeah, he's also a really good signal caller. You know what I mean, with the signals and stuff like that. Like Kyle's awesome in the locker room because he gets a pulse of the community. Anytime you're like the big man on campus in high school in a town like West Lafayette, and you have the success that he had in high school, like you've just got a certain swagger about yourself, and he definitely carries that into the locker room. So he's one of the more popular guys we have on the team, just with his teammates. And I know him and Hud have gotten tight, so I'm glad he's on our team, and it's good to have somebody that grew up here care about this place the way he does.
To come back to Memorial, I got the military display on to have a game on Veterans Day to celebrate everything about that. We'll do that with basically the same emblem on our helmet, and after we get done with this, two of our players, Tip Ryman and I, and also Jeremiah Warren, who has some family history of the military, will do a little thing with the services here in the stadium. So it's kind of a cool week in that regards to honor everything that's going on in our world today. Honored to be a part of that, and obviously to be at Memorial Stadium. I really got educated when I got here, from everything with the names on the pillars to everything else that it involves. So it's a great part to be a part of that this weekend. From a football standpoint, have a lot of respect, obviously, for Indiana to beat Wisconsin last week, and to do it the way they did. It was a very hard-fought, well-earned game. Really, since their bye week, obviously they've had some transition on their coaching staff. Their O-line coach and I go way, way back. I've known Rod Carey for a long time. Tremendous respect for those coaches, and really didn't know Coach Allen until I got in the league on my return. So tremendous respect for him. From a couple update standpoints, just literally met with JB, our trainer, and Reggie will practice tomorrow, full go. I think our thought is to let him go Tuesday. He was kind of on the back end of last week and didn't respond as well. That's why we didn't take him on a trip. So Reggie will be full go tomorrow to kind of see how he responds on Wednesday, but the idea and anticipation would be for him to be back with us. Keith Randolph really handled the game pretty well, but I would say that I don't think it was 100% Keith, so we're going to kind of back off him a little bit this week, but fully intend for him to be back with us. Our thoughts will be with Aiden tomorrow. Aiden Lawfrey will have surgery tomorrow morning and start his road to recovery as it goes. And then Luke, basically at the end of the game there, took a shot that, prohibited him from moving forward. But I do expect him to bounce back this week and have him be involved with the game on Saturday. If not, obviously John would be our guy. But right now, every indication is that we'll be able to go down that road. I give a lot of credit to our coaches. I specifically said Thursday after practice on the field about how we're 8 games into this, right? You have all this film to watch, all this film to prepare on. But the greatest players I've ever been around are the guys that are put in situations that they weren't accounted for, weren't ready, or expecting them to happen. I literally said to the group, there's going to be somebody on this field right now that has no idea they're going to impact our game. I didn't know it was going to be our second-string quarterback on 4th and 11 with less than a minute to go and no timeouts. So give John Paddock a tremendous amount of credit. But I also think he has a rapport with our players. The way Isaiah Williams responded to him immediately, especially on that last play, but also the 4th and 11 play was a play that they had, I think, connected on, not just in that moment, but during the course of the year, just mutual respect for one another. I really like the way our defense responded in the second half. The numbers were really staggering in the first half. It was kind of a unusual first half, but the way it played out to go in that locker room 17-14, told the guys at halftime, let's not come back in here without a W, and obviously a lot of good things to make that happen. So, I thought it was interesting, right? Like Luke in the first half was 15 of 19, but I looked at it from a statistical standpoint, right? So since the Penn State game, he's completed 66% of his passes. He's thrown for over 1,300 yards. over 220 a game, 10 touchdowns to 3 interceptions, right? And I like the fact that we're playing better football down the stretch. I obviously wish we had played better in some of those earlier games, but I like the direction this team takes. I like the work ethic. I like their attitude. I think we'll see more of the same. See a lot of guys up there this morning, obviously in the building already on a player's day off. So I'm excited for the week to see where we can go. So with that, I'll open up for questions.
Coach Aaron Henry said that Johnny Newton may be the most impactful interior defensive lineman that he's ever coached or been around. Where does he stack up as far as the guys that you've seen?
Yeah, ironically, I was coming in on Sunday morning and Terrence Jamison, our D-line coach, was parked right next to me. He came in at the same time, and I said, hey, we obviously have 4 guaranteed games left with Johnny, and I think as a coach, one of the great things that I had from advice from Coach Alvarez my first year as a head coach was coaching Joe Thomas and Paul Chris and him. We were sitting together, and they said, hey, this is, Joe might be a generational player, and I really didn't even know what that meant. That was a big term for me. And they said, you may never have another left tackle that plays the game as well as Joe Thomas. And so I've always kind of had that term. I've been around some great ones, some first-round draft picks, and for me, at the defensive line, at the interior defensive tackle position in college is by far the best player I've been around, and it's a point last year where I knew he was a really good player, right? And when Johnny decided to come back, he wanted to come back with the idea that he was going to play as good as he possibly could and then put a 1 on his back, right, for on draft day. And everything I've witnessed to this point has reassured me it's even better than it was a year ago. I think classic play on Saturday, obviously the third down, and that's a 4-point play, right? So that sack was a big sack, but it prohibited 4 points from going on the board, and you see the effect that it had on the game in the end, right? But I tell you what happened is he beat that tackle in a 1-on-1, but he closed on that quarterback, I think, faster than that quarterback had any idea he could do. That's the difference with Johnny, I think, than any other D lineman I've been around. I think the biggest wow factor he has is after he beats the guard or the tackle or the center, he has the ability to close on quarterbacks. In today's world, some of these quarterbacks are third-string running backs, right? And Johnny's innate ability to close on a quarterback after he beats a rusher is really at a high level of performance.
Clayton Bush able to kind of rise to the occasion like he did?
Clayton's been a pretty impressive guy, to be honest, ever since he came in the summer. Very athletic, very intelligent. I remember the first time the guys started talking about him, like, Coach, have you seen him return punts or catch punts? He kind of came onto the scene. Obviously, Matt Bailey position, and when Matt went down, we knew we were down to Nicario and Clayton, and I think Aaron – Nicario played with some physicality, and that's what drove it. But I tell you, Clayton is a very intelligent person, probably a little too smart for his britches at times. He's definitely a very confident player and a big personality. And I've been kind of waiting for his moment. I thought he might be one of those guys that rise up, and it's exactly what happened. Everybody wants to talk about the third down stop, but the 2-point play that he knocked out of the back of the now it was a quarterback that was catching it, so it wasn't that. But you got to put him in a spot once in a while. But, yeah, the play there was really, really big, and just a super intelligent player. He's always engaged. He's always asking a lot of questions, and not surprising at all that he rose up in a big moment.
As a quick follow-up, you had Clayton back there returning a couple of punts.
Yeah.
Was that just giving Isaiah a break, or did you just like what you wanted?
Well, they were back there together. And then what they did schematically, 27's a really good player for him, right? I've had a man crush on him ever since I got here as an Illinois player, right? And he literally has put one of our keys to victory was for us, we wanted to run the ball, stop the run, and to cover kicks. On the flip side of it, every one of our return units, we wanted to know where number 27 was. And he kind of dictates where the ball goes. So we never knew where he was going to line up and where the direction was going. So we didn't. After that first one hit and ran for a couple extra yards, I said, okay, we're going twin punt returners the rest of the way. It was just mainly to field the kick.
Specifically observed with Thad and Caden to allow that relationship to blossom.
Just like that little A-train I threw out. Did you guys see that? You guys come up with these bad nicknames. I was trying to help them out.
The Arthur Wagons.
Yeah, the Arthur Wagons.
But to allow Caden to step, you don't like that. We'll get to it. But to allow Caden to step into this bigger role here.
He's from Atwood. The thing that I've been impressed with that. So when I first got here, there were several people in my ear about that. And obviously the way the staff kind of shook out, I wanted to move Corey. I wanted to retain Corey and to move him to that position. But I became aware of that at that time. And the people that spoke to me on Thad's behalf, I really respect, not only in this building but in this profession. And then I kind of had my eye out a little bit, and then when we had the opening, he was a guy that I went back to those same people and talked about. He had obviously been at K-State. A person that I mutually know through K-State had made reference to about how much of an effect he had on the wide receiver room in that program, and that really was enhanced the more I met with him. We met in St. Louis, kind of sat down and just, really the first time we sat down face-to-face, his detail, his professionalism, I think our players really have responded to his attention to detail. Like, he's really, really specific with each one of them. I think a lot of times in a running back room, coaches group just to the starter, or they cater to the guy, right? And he really literally has a plan. I've been very impressed with that detail for each guy, right? And then I think, in the initial conversations, I could see Caden had never really been, and it's very common, right, that jump to college. But in talking with his mom, Jen just talked about, because he had been recruited by Corey and really myself and the staff, and he just gravitated right away to that, and it's continued to grow. I've been very impressed. It's a true freshman that's doing that, right? And everybody had been kind of waiting for that breakout run. I literally had said I think his first breakout play would be a pass, just because he's faster than most people think. He can really go. You saw a little bit on that play against Wisconsin, but when he gets ahead of steam going, man, he can cook.
Changed your offense, Caden?
How's he changed our offense? I think he's given us a little bit of stability, maybe. I think at the beginning of last spring, he wasn't quite healthy when he got here. So in the spring, guys saw a big, good-looking body, right, that can do some things. But then once he got healthy and we got a little more balanced, JB and his crew did a nice job of getting him fully healed in the spring. In the summer, we could see it running, and then in the fall camp, that's when it jumped out. And he's just he can hit a hole. He can hit a small hole and get vertical. There was a play that gained 11 yards the other day that literally looked like it wasn't going to be anything, and all of a sudden he's falling forward for 11. I don't know if he's been stopped for a negative yard play yet. And he's just he's and the greatest thing about him is just his humility, his demeanor. He's got a great sense of humor. His mom and that whole family, dad and grandpa and his aunt and uncles. I think the first time he came to campus, there might have been like 13, 14 people with him, right? That's just kind of how they roll.
Brett, both of your coordinators just referenced meeting with you and kind of a rehearsal process for potential scenarios, and those both played out.
Oh, Friday nights?
Yeah. Is that a common practice you've always had? Is it unique?
I would say for me as a head coach, I kind of flip midweek, right? So I watch game film Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday I flip to TV copy. And I took that from Bill, and that was really on TV copy. You see things differently, and you watch the game as it unfolds. When you watch defense film, you don't know what happened on offense. So I've always kind of believed in my journey here, like that's been a big step of how we play the game. I talk a lot about how we want to play the game, and then really Friday night I tried to. They don't know what we're going to watch. I think I had 228 plays set for them, and sometimes we get to them all, sometimes we don't, but it's plays they haven't ever seen in sequence, so I teach them where it is. And, yeah, that's been very beneficial. Every coordinator I've had, obviously the first one offensively didn't go well, but I think that was a growing experience. I think Ryan made that reference, and Aaron and Barry both. It just allows us all to get on the same page, so when Saturdays come, I don't want it to be a surprise. I'll literally say sometimes, I kept Aaron back on Friday night. I wanted to go over some end-of-half things, right, and end-of-game situations that literally played out right in front of us. And since I've been here, I can't tell you how many times that Friday night session plays out to something that we see on Saturday.
Just for any clarity,
so we're coming in on a different note this week as opposed to the previous multiple weeks with a victory. And so now we look forward to playing a really good Ohio State team, another top 10 team that we'll be playing, our third one this season. So look forward to the challenge and going down to Columbus.
Harlan, Saturday you said you hadn't really talked with Sam about his future, whether he would play again and burn a red shirt, and he said he was undecided. I'm just wondering if you guys know the direction he's going to go at this point in time.
We can't share that information. Keep them preparing. But no, we're going to do what's best for the team, and that's what he wants to do as well, and for him as well. So we're still working through it, to be honest with you.
And then if he was to decide not to play again this season, where would you go for depth at quarterback with Caton being the only healthy scholarship guy, Andrew behind him, and would you move somebody to quarterback, or do you think Noah could come back?
You still have Drew Scorfar as a player for this playing quarterback as well. So, that's we'll stand pat, but no decisions have really been ultimately made concerning Sam yet. So we'll just keep working.
Harlan in the back. You've come up here so many Mondays and just kind of preached resiliency and how this team continues to bounce back. But I know it's been 24 hours, but how good does Saturday feel, and how much energy was in that locker room after the game? Oh,
it felt really good. I mean, and winning does a lot. It heals a lot of wounds and pain. But the energy in the locker room was outstanding. I mean, everybody was excited and happy and joyful. So it was good to see those guys having fun for a change in a while. Excuse me. So it's great. It was great. Great feeling.
I think JD had said that right here. JD said after the game that that was the type of win that kind of brings life back into a team. How do you guys plan to just carry that momentum, knowing that you are about to face a really talented Ohio State team this weekend? Well, I told them this today in today's team meeting. We want to keep the positive energy going, and so that's what we want: positive energy. At all times from everybody, coaches, everybody, staff, support staff, training room, weight room. Positive energy is how you're going to keep it going. And your body language speaks of, negative or positive energy also. So we want to have great body language, positive body language. And there's a quote that I heard out there before. It says, be positive or be quiet. So that's what we're going to be this week and moving forward.
Harlan, you obviously know what it's like as a coach to go down to Ohio State and win in a game that you're not really favored in. What does this team need to do this week in terms of maybe summoning up some of that mojo and carrying it? What are the things that they need to do beyond just being positive?
Great attention to detail. You got to have great attention to detail. The previous two top 10 teams that we've played in Washington and Ann Arbor is 11 penalties for both games. So we can't beat ourselves. So that's so great attention to detail will help us not beat ourselves and get those costly penalties. So give ourselves a chance. Don't help them beat us. Make them beat us. Have them to earn the right to beat us. And so that's where we got to start. And then we move from there. But great attention to detail is always going to be a major factor. And that great attention to detail means, doing your job, playing with great discipline, great eye control, and great physicality.
Harlan, you've seen them, you played them a lot over the years. I was wondering, what do you think the difference is this year? It looks like, they don't have a Heisman candidate at quarterback, and defensively, it seems like that's what's really leading them. Not that they don't have talent, obviously, on offense, but it seems like the defense is what's carrying them this season. I
see what you see. No, they're a good team regardless. They always get a lot of great talent down there. Marvin Harrison is an outstanding football player, and they have others as well. So they're not lacking for talent, offense, defense, or anywhere. So we got to go down there, like I said, have great attention to detail, and make sure we're going to execute on every chance we get an opportunity to execute.
H, do you see Ohio State as being more like Washington with the high-powered passing game, or more like Michigan with the physicality?
You almost made me say something. I see them as a mixture, I guess you can say. You know what I mean? They're a little bit of both. They can throw it around, obviously. Different quarterback in Washington than Ohio State. A little bit different. He's been the quarterback there for longer. He understands their offense probably better and more experienced. But it's kind of a combination of the two.
I see Michigan's had a couple games where they didn't have a penalty. Nebraska did not have a penalty against you. How does a team do that? Go through 60 minutes? Seems like a stretch, but
tell me about it. You tell me. I don't know. I don't know. So good for them. Maybe they coach it up and they do a good job at it.
One more thing. What'd you do with the ball?
It's getting painted up, and they're gonna give it to me later. So they took it from me, and I don't have it anymore. So I gotta wait to get it back.
Harlan back here. You mentioned Marvin Harrison a little bit, and you guys saw what he did last year against you guys. How do you hope to contain him or just slow him down a little bit?
I can't tell you that, but I will say this. You know, he's a really good football player, and we know that. That's what I'll say.
One of the biggest stories in college football right now is obviously the sign stealing scandal with Michigan. We asked you about that when Michigan was here. But just with the news of Connor Stallions no longer being part of their program and the call last week with coaches and ADs, I'm just curious, what's kind of been your reaction? Do you think that the conference needs to take action more like now, immediately, or just where do you stand on all of it?
I'll reverse that back to you. What you think?
Oh, usually.
I caught you off guard with that.
I'm used to asking questions, not answering.
I know. I'm messing with. I'm teasing. I'm thinking like most people in this room are hopefully thinking. I'll leave it at that.
What does Saturday do in terms of, in talking to some of the guys, they talked about a weight being lifted. What did that weight feel like, and what does it feel like now to have it off you guys, and can playing free and easy help a team at this point with the road you got ahead?
It can help. You know, like I said, the guys have been coming to practice even when we were going through the tough times every week with energy and passion and ready to go. But you can feel, man, finally we got one, and it feel like a weight is off your back a little bit. But we still expect the same energy and passion throughout the course of this week like they've been doing. But like you said, at least it's one under the belt, and it feels even a little bit better.
Do you expect anybody back this weekend that has been out, maybe Malik or Trey or any of those guys?
Yeah, Malik will be back. Malik Carr will be back this week.
And Trey, is he
still? He still be out.
And is there anything, I guess, I mean, you kind of talked about it, but the not beating yourself, but anything else you learned in those two games against, you know, the top 10 teams you've already faced this season?
That's the main thing as far as the penalties and beating ourselves. I told our guys that we were a younger team, especially when we played Washington, inexperienced in some areas on the team, a lot of areas on the team for that fact. But now I said no longer. That's no longer an excuse, if you want to call it an excuse. You know, we got a lot of guys that have got a lot of time in this year and played a lot of football. So now we got to go out and execute, and again have great attention to detail and perform under that type of situation, like playing Ohio State, a top 10 team. And so I think our guys, you know, hopefully they've learned, got that experience, and feel comfortable and confident when they go out there on Saturday to go get the job done.
Harlan, the decision to have Scotty up in the booth, and as somebody who's been a coordinator in that, what you get on the sidelines versus what you get in the booth, the advantages, disadvantages, and what was behind that?
So I actually brought it up to him a few weeks back, and he was like, "Yeah." I said, "Just think about it. Just think about it." And he came back and said, "I feel more comfortable staying down initially." And then Minnesota, I said, "Man, go up." So. And like you said, as a coordinator, you watch so much film. When you're up in the booth, it's like watching film again. You see everything. And I said, man, I said, you will be outstanding in the box. As much film as you watch, you will be outstanding. And it's not like he's never done it. He was just, you know, probably a little concerned about, you know, sideline adjustments and things like that. And we assured him and the guys that were going to be doing it that they will get the job done on the sideline adjustments. I said, man, and so I think it's been good. I mean, it's been 2 weeks in a row now. I know he sees everything, and like I said, nobody knows the defense better than him. He brought this defense here, and nobody knows it better than him. And so he sees things right away and can call it out and get it fixed, as opposed to being down on the sideline. I think you hear from some guys in the box, they know, but you know, you kind of, what was that really? And then, you know, as opposed to being up top, and he's seeing it right away because he's been, like I said, been in his defense for so long. He knows the good, the bad, the adjustments and all that. So I think it's been really good.
Back at it today with the group. Had productive morning meetings, an opportunity to review film with our guys and learn from the Iowa opportunity and where we can continue to improve and get better. And then our guys will be back in the facility later this afternoon, this evening, as we dive full into Wisconsin prep. Got a group that is, really excited about what's still in front of it. Obviously very disappointed with the result of Saturday, but I think this group understands that if we continue to make improvements each and every day out of practice, and that continues to show up on Saturdays, this group's going to give itself a chance to win games each and every Saturday. So we have 3 guaranteed opportunities left. Those are opportunities that our team are really, really excited about, and this group cares deeply about one another, loves playing together, and is going to battle its tail off to ensure that we have opportunities to earn ourselves at least one more chance to play together moving forward.
Coach, you talked this weekend about having your dad at Wrigley Field and what that meant to you and the emotions that came with that. What do you expect the dynamic to be like when you coach a game so close to your hometown in Wisconsin?
Yeah, it'll be coaching Big Ten football and doing it with a group like we have here at Northwestern is always really special. Having my dad at the game this past Saturday was more a testament and a credit to him than anyone else. Not to get into details, he was dealing with some things this past week with his health. Didn't think he was going to be able to attend the game, and in a very patient and stubborn manner, worked with his doctor to ensure that he could get down to the game. So, that was an opportunity that I thought he was going to be able to join our family down there when he was able to. That was neat. That I was glad he was able to share in that. But I'm just really excited for this team to have an opportunity to go up to Madison. It's well documented that we haven't played our best football on the road up to this point this year, so it's an incredible challenge against a really good Wisconsin team in an incredible environment. Our guys are excited to get into prep this afternoon.
Coach, we've talked a lot about this year about starting fast, but in some of these more recent games, this defense has had to really either stand on its head or other teams have been able to make comebacks late in the fourth quarter. We've talked a lot about starting. How do you have to close things?
Yeah, it's with details. I mean, to be honest with you, it comes down to little procedural things. For me, I've evaluated every single decision that I made, in those closing moments of the game, and there's things that I can continue to improve on the details. A lot of times when you prepare for those field goal block situations at the end of the game, you're preparing for the ball to be on a hash or not directly in the middle of the field. You're looking to overload a side. You're looking to get to a max block. Going back on that, I need to do a better job of putting our guys in the proper alignments to get pressure where we need pressure. I mean, credit to Iowa's kicker. He put it right down the middle, and you go back and look at the film, and were our guys straining? Were they in a position to potentially affect the kick in some spots? But we didn't have them in the best situation. So, it comes down to all of us, but starting with me on just all the little details that are required to win in the Big Ten.
Coach, you talked about the away games. Why do you feel like you all haven't had as much success away, but also does the preparation look different?
This week will be unique. It won't be a plane trip. It'll be a bus trip, so it'll look a little different. Ideally, I think routine and rhythm is absolutely critical to any team, whether it be home or away. We'll certainly look to get our guys in rhythm and in routine, while also evaluating if there's some areas that we can continue to improve, especially on their game day prep, to make sure that our guys are ready to go. But at the end of the day, so much of it comes down to execution and really tuning out all the external environment that exists on the road. And Madison's certainly gonna pose a lot of challenges in that regard. But against a team like Wisconsin, really well coached, plays good defense, finds ways to stress you on offense. It'll be critical that we start fast. And I'm excited for the challenge that's ahead. The last time that this team was truly on the road out at Nebraska, we certainly fell short, but I think there was a lot of lessons to pull from that experience and that opportunity. I think this group only continues to mature as each week goes by, and that's what we're going to challenge them moving forward. That we're going to have to be a very mature group that's executing at a really high level for 4 quarters to find a way to get it done in Madison.
Regarding Michigan, did you take part of that, and what is your role in those conversations as an interim?
Yeah, no, I'm involved in all those conversations. I won't share the content of those conversations, but no, I was on that call, Matt.
And do you have any thoughts on the allegations to Michigan? Do you have anything you would see as an appropriate punishment?
That's not in my lane. I will say that Commissioner Petiti has been an incredible leader and an incredible support system for me going through this transition, and fully trust that him and the rest of the Big Ten office will make, will take proper steps to make sure that they're moving the conference forward in the appropriate manner.
Coach, you guys had the offensive sequence. I think it was first and goal from the 2-yard line, didn't score any points. What were your conversations like with Coach Bajakian and that sequence to kind of run up the gut 4 times? Did you ever weigh in saying, maybe we should try to add some misdirection or a play fake here or there?
Yeah, no, it was very clear, with Coach Bajakian that, as long as we weren't going backwards, that there would be an opportunity to go for it on 4th if it got to 4th down. Beyond that, hindsight's 20/20. If you were to tell me that, if you were to give me the play calls that were executed in that situation, in that sequence, and where the ball was placed, and say, hey, Dave, are you comfortable with these play calls, this sequencing, that we're going to score a touchdown? We said absolutely. I'll put it on that group to find a way to get in the end zone. So not going to second guess that play calling, and were we disappointed with the result? Absolutely, but. Again, in hindsight, it's easy to be critical. I feel really comfortable with the way that went down and the calls that were made.
Coach, I probably sound like a broken record at this point asking you, but once again, do you have an update on Ben's availability, or will it be Brendan again this week?
You know what? We're taking that day to day. To be honest with you, Ben's made some incredible progress. Each day we'll know more, but. I'm not willing to sit up here and say that he's not going to be available. With the progression that he's shown over the course of the last couple weeks, I think there's a possibility that he's ready to go.
And if Ben is ready to go, will it be Ben as a starter, or will it be a competition with Brendan?
We'll take that day to day. We'll make a decision that we feel is in the best interest of the team winning a football game. Tremendous amount of respect for the way that Sully has played and battled and fought for his team. I think you see a football team, the greatest statistic that you can, hang your hat on as a quarterback is wins and losses. And what you see right now is a football team that is fighting its butt off and rallying around a bunch of guys, including Brendan Sullivan. So, that's not a decision that's been made yet. But what I can say is, if Ben is available, that's great. And it's going to make it a really difficult decision for us as a coaching staff to deem who's going to put our team in the best situation to go win a football game.
Coach, I feel like we're talking about Xander Mueller more and more every week. He had a career game last weekend. How much of his potential has he reached?
Gosh, he's improved a ton. I still think he's, just scratching the surface. That's a young man that's taken full advantage of a spring ball, of a fall camp, has made a very conscious and intentional effort to improve each day out at practice. Coach McGargle's done an incredible job with him and the rest of that group. But I think the thing that shows up so consistently for Xander right now, which is so exciting, is his tempo and demeanor of play. I mean, he is flying around. And I know that's words that you hear coaches say all the time. But I mean, literally, you see that guy flash on film, and really excited about the growth and development that he's had, and excited for that continued growth. He's getting better and better each week.
Coach, you talked about ways Wisconsin can stress you on offense. One of them clearly being Braylon Allen. How do you prepare for a guy or a dynamic running back?
It starts off with some really good tackle circuit work, and making sure that we're keeping our eyes up, getting our near foot on the ground, running our feet through contact. He's a talented back, big back, really good stiff arm. He's gonna pick up 4 yards just by falling forward. But we're gonna have to do a great job in our fundamental and technique work, just like we do every week in our Indy, and then just our guys are gonna have to do a great job in those scout periods of making sure that we're getting in great body positions and replicating what we want to see on Saturday, and that's good chest-to-chest contact, eyes up, running our feet, and creating opportunities for knockback tackles. Because if you're not running your feet through contact, he's going to pick up 6 yards every time.
Coach, last year the team lost to Minnesota 31-3, flipped that into a win this year. Iowa was a 20-point loss, cut that down to 3. Wisconsin was another big loss for the team last year. How have you been able to instill a confidence in the team to take those losses from last year with a very similar roster and fight for wins in close games this season?
Again, Matt, it sounds so cliche, and I apologize for that, but it really does come back to guys showing up, taking it one day at a time. We talk about flushing the last game. Well, whatever that result was against that opponent last year, putting that in our rear view. And again, I really believe that this group has taken it seriously about just finding a way to improve just a little bit each and every day. And when every guy in our roster is doing that, you're seeing some of the collective, benefits of that. You got a team that believes, that's playing really hard, that's playing for one another. And I think they understand that, if they continue to do that, they're going to give themselves a chance to